Bristol Budget Committee to order. First thing is Pledge of Allegiance. Bill, can I ask you to impose upon you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we have quite a bit of stuff to do, so we'll move through it, take the time we need, but hopefully not more than that. So to start, let's go ahead and do the Economic Development Committee. Bill, if you could take the seat at the table there simply so we put you in front of a microphone so we get you on the recording.
That's what they can see.
I'll make a motion to move the Economic Development Committee budget section 4651 in the amount of $550. Can I, seconded by Buzz?
I think,
Yep, what, did I get something wrong?
I have 3,250.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
glad someone's waking me up. Yep, no, I tried to make a cheat sheet ahead of time and evidently I did it wrong. You're correct, thank you. So let me restate that. Move the EDC budget section 4651 in the amount of $3,250. And I'll still take Buzz that you seconded that.
Yep.
So we have a motion, 250. Is there anything that you want to say, Bill, before we ask questions?
Well, I'll just tell you what we're in the process of doing. The EDC has a subcommittee called the Penny Path Subcommittee, and we're pursuing to get grants to get funding to build the Penny Path between Profile Falls and Bristol Falls. And we have an Army Corps of Engineers agreement. We have the new memorandum of understanding that
It should be signed very shortly, and we have agreed to it. They've amended it, and they are finalizing their portion of it.
so we have expanded the MOU to be 2 years instead of 1 year as it was. So they gave it to us last year, and we have acted with them. We've had a couple of meetings with them, slow as molasses, but anyway, we are working with them. And at the same time, we are looking for funding, economic grants, and we pursued some congressionally directed spending, which didn't happen. We've identified about 6 different grant opportunities in the next 2 years. And we're in the process right now of pursuing one with Northern Borders. And that Northern Borders one they all require, as does the Army Corps of Engineers, an environmental assessment 2. We've done the environmental assessment 1. We found some PFAS was found on the trail. The Army Corps of Engineers tested and found that it was negligible. So we're up to now going to EA2, Environmental Assessment 2, which is needed to go with NEPA. Now, if you think this is acronym soup, you're right. We're dealing with the government, and it is acronym soup. The NEPA is the National Environmental Protection Act. Policy, thank you. Not act, policy. And so we have to jump through all these hoops. And as we go through these hoops, we are trying, Buzz is on the subcommittee, we're trying to do this at no cost. Trying to do it at no cost. But there does turn out to be some costs sometimes. And when for example, we had the maps upgraded after our walk with the Army Corps of Engineers, and that's what the $1,200 was, because that was Mike Bignelli updating the maps to reflect the changes that we had made in the planned trail what we think would be the potential trail for both hikers, and then a spur trail that would be for snowmobilers. And so these maps are upgraded. We're going to need these maps in every application we do, so we had to pay some money. As we go with EA2, we're trying to do this, we think, we being the subcommittee, the members of the subcommittee, which is about 6 people regularly, and we've had up to 14 people come to subcommittee meetings because there's a lot of interest in this trail. But we think we can do it because it is primarily a rail bed conversion, and there are no buildings in this area. So that we think that reduces the environmental assessment and impacts, but we're not 100% sure. So we need some budget to go forward, and what we're recommending is we stay at the level with what we were last year, which was $3,000, because eventually when we do the submissions, they're going to have to be looked over by a professional engineer. And he's going to charge us money to do that, give us the approval to do the stamping. So right now we're saying, hey, if we could keep this at our level budget, which is basically $3,000. I see here you've got $3,250. But what we're saying is we're looking for the $3,000. I think you're getting great value for very few dollars, because we're working our guts out to get this done, and we've been jumping through hoops with different meetings with different organizations. The last one was the Association of Regional Planning Commissions. There were 5 of us went to that meeting. We were told by Stu Arnett, who's a consultant to Northern Borders, that we 5 were the stars of that meeting, because we really kept that meeting going. We had scheduled for tomorrow another meeting with PSU, but some health matters have come into it, so we've postponed it till Monday. But like I said, we're working diligently, and if we need this money, we'll use it. But if we don't need it, we certainly won't frivolously spend it.
Yeah, that was really the only follow-up question I was going to have, that sometimes the current spend is still this stuff coming, but the spending for last year is just the $1,220. You're not spending the full $3,000, right?
No,
So
we did not.
we did encumber $1,000 to go also towards next year in order to help them, because engineering costs or planning costs can cost more than the $3,000 they're asking for. So we asked the board to encumber $1,000 for KV, Mike Bignelli, KV Partners, so that we could pay for some of those costs with the encumbrance.
Where is that, if you encumber it?
It won't show in your budget yet. The encumbrances were voted by the select board on December 21st, but the finance office hasn't put them in yet.
So it's sitting on the balance sheet?
It'll be in there, so.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Any other committee member want to ask a question, or go ahead?
Bill, do we get any revenue, does the town of Bristol get any revenue from the snowmobiles?
Do we get revenue from snowmobiles? Not at this point. With this Northern Borders, you've got time for this. Northern Borders, we are now an attained town. That means that we are regarded as being fiscally good. We're no longer a distressed town. So when we apply for a grant, we no longer get a match grant. So that means and this is what our meeting tomorrow on Monday is about, is finding out just exactly what we have to do what's known as the significant benefits waiver when we apply for the grant. And what we are trying to understand is exactly what a significant benefits waiver is, because we're now an attained town and we have to do this, and what that has to show is that if we in fact can show that we have a significant benefit from this trail, from this grant opportunity, if it brings significant benefit to the region, which we believe it does, in the way of just in the way of businesses in Town Square. Town Square have already seen businesses, their business go up. I mean, we talked to Nancy Spears and she told us she's looking at somewhere between 3 and 5% increase in business based on just the trail that we have. So what we have to do is we've got to capture that and the other shop owners and the other businesses and pull all this together and create a significant benefit for the region. Not only Bristol, but we have to allocate that out to some of the other towns, to Bridgewater, to Hebron, to what's the other one? Alexandria, thank you. We have to, and this is what we're trying to figure out, is how do we allocate what we think, what we perceive will be increased businesses into Bristol and the region, bed and breakfasts, for example. So,
But do you have any positive feedback from these people that you're aiming?
that's what we're about to do next month. We're going to go, we, being the subcommittee members, are going to go out to the different businesses and ask them, like we've asked Nancy, how much is your business increasing? How much is your business likely to increase? We need to capture that number in order to create the significant benefits, so that we get the significant benefits waiver. Now, to come back to your question on snowmobiles, we believe that will be one of the groups. They're prepared to put in $600,000 worth of labor into building this trail. At the same time, if they do that, we're going to connect into, from snowmobiles, we'll connect into basically the Great Northern Rail Trail. That runs between Lebanon and Concord. And if we can bring those snowmobilers back into Bristol, that's going to be part of the significant benefits and boosting the economics into the businesses in Bristol.
You don't mean literally railroad. Do you mean, did you say railroad?
Yeah,
So you mean, because we
the
don't have
Great
any
Northern Rail
railroad.
Trail.
It's an abandoned, they're all abandoned railroads.
Yeah,
It's a 97 mile rail trail, which hosts a heck of a lot of snowmobiles in the winter. We will come into it at Franklin. We will link up from Bristol with this new trail to Profile Falls, where it links into the Hill Trail, which links into the Franklin Trail, which links into the Great Northern Rail Trail. So we will act as a spur off the Great Northern Rail Trail. So we should be bringing businesses into Bristol and into Profile Falls for people to use their snowmobiles to link into that trail. And so we believe, and the snowmobilists agree with us, it's going to bring more business into Bristol.
But Janet, just for perspective, we estimate that the total project cost is around $2 million. If we get the $600,000 in-kind contribution from the snowmobile clubs, which they've verbally committed to, in the nature of construction, we use the grant money to pay the acquisition of materials and whatever. This project will be done with no cost to the town whatsoever. So it's a pretty good deal.
I guess you caught my ear when you said the other towns would benefit from this. And it just seems as though, and everybody said it, Bristol pays much more than any other towns for this, for that, and that's all I heard.
Well,
Paying
we
second.
won't get the grant money unless we can show significant regional benefit, not just Bristol benefit. Has to be a regional benefit. So
That's just one grant. We're pursuing other opportunities.
that's why we're planning to talk to businesses outside of Bristol.
Is that just, because I need just, in my mind, I was thinking, is that just a snowmobile paths, or is that also bikes?
That's four seasons.
So you bike stuff like that.
Bicycles,
Yeah.
hikers,
Yeah,
mushers,
yeah,
anybody that we can get that's
snow
gonna
showing,
bring,
things like that, yeah.
that can use that trail. We're not gonna let quads on it. We will not let quads on it, because they tear up the trails badly.
What's quads? I don't know what that
ATV.
is.
Four-wheelers.
Oh, four-wheelers, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Is
Was
this gonna
this-
go the way the bicycle trail did when they sold that to us? They were gonna let ski mobiles use that.
well,
It never happened though.
you're getting me going down another rat hole there.
Okay.
Yep.
That's just gonna, okay.
I can answer that.
Yeah.
It was a path to nowhere for the snowmobiles unless Bristol was going to let them go down the side of the roads. So it wasn't the snowmobiles couldn't use it, it was just it wasn't gonna take them to a destination that they made sense for them to go down. So they were part of that path that they were
They
included.
supported it.
And they supported it.
Yep, and
But-
then it backfired on them.
But then I think they realized too, with just that leg of the path, it really wasn't gonna take them where they wanted to go unless we allowed them to go along the roads or sidewalks.
Thank you.
Okay, not hearing any more, and we don't have any motions to amend. I'll go ahead and call the vote. So we're gonna vote on approving the budget for the EDC, section 4651, in the original amount of $3,250. So yes or aye, you're approving. No or nay, you're disapproving. All in favor, raise aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have 6-1, that passes.
Thank you. You and I can have coffee sometime. We'll talk about it.
Thank you for coming, Bill. All right, so let's see if I can do this without, instead of reading off my cheat sheet, I'll call up the, so I will move to introduce the highway budget, section 4311, in the amount of $726,815.04. Can I get a second?
So I'll second it.
Sue?
Yeah. Tell me
Mark,
what
before-
4311 is.
It's highways and streets,
Hi-
4311.
Mark, before you get started, just for our minutes and record keeping, could you read into the microphone the other names of the other two folks in the room? So we
Yes,
can
I
make sure.
have my foreman, Victor Greenwood, with me tonight, and our new lead attendant at the transfer station, Chuck Collins.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. Thank you. Sometimes I forget to do that, and then when my minute taker goes to write who's in the room, they're like, I don't know who that is. So I ask the person who knows, put it in the record. Thank you. Before we start asking questions again, Mark, is there anything you want to bring to our attention, or you want to point out to us, or?
No, I think we have a pretty workable budget here. I am a little disappointed, but with the board cutting back on our paving, but that comes up in the next section, I guess.
Yeah, that's in projects.
So other than that, I don't, I think we've got a workable budget here.
Okay. Any committee members have a question or a comment that they would like to make about the highway department budget?
I have a few.
Please.
So I'll
Go
go
ahead.
to markets on them. I have a few line items, I just have questions.
I just asked, Mark said he didn't really have anything that he needed to point out to us, nothing has changed, so why don't you go ahead with your questions?
Okay. What is the difference between part-time plowing and there was another plowing? And I was wondering if one was just for the post office and one plowing was for, used to be red condos on the mountain.
Yeah, we have a line for contracted snow plowing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
is that,
that's just the post office.
that's just post office?
Yep.
Okay. And do we still pay, or do you have a driver going up?
No, we still pay.
You still pay?
Yeah, we try to get the contractor that does the rest of the post office parking lot, because we just end up being in each other's way, such a little small parking lot, so we just have them do it while they're in there.
Yeah, well, I know Steve used to do that, and then I was wondering if you had, because you did the first year.
So just to clarify, you're talking about line 350, which is $1,500,
Yep.
which is basically a contract expense.
Right.
Okay.
And then I thought that, I thought I saw 2 cell phones, but I guess I didn't. But the one cell phone that I saw, last year, which, Christina, the reports, what are the dates they run from?
These reports, they run as of January 3rd.
As of January 3rd, where did you get that?
It's on the bottom of the printed, so the day that I printed them, that shows printed, was the date I ran the new reports.
So January 10th?
Oh, so you guys have January 10th, I'm looking at January 3rd.
Okay, I thought that was the day you ran them.
Yeah, no, it's the day I ran the report and printed them, so.
But aren't they just run through December 31st?
So, yes,
Yeah.
sorry, but we aren't closed, we haven't closed 2023 yet. We won't be able to close it probably for another week, potentially, so. We're working on closing it, so, but we have not. So there are some things that we just booked in, this week in 2023.
Yeah.
And then we might have a few stragglers next week. And then we should be hopefully done with 2023 bills.
Okay, because I've looked at all the reports and I couldn't find a date. So the cell phone was $940. And I know you have 2 cell phones now.
We have 3 cell phones. We have one for myself, one for the foreman, and one that the on-call person carries when he's on the weekends and at night.
Okay. And did you change carriers?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, okay. The paint machine. Last year, we only spent $45 on it. And you were asking for $1,500, and the select board gave you $1,800. And I was wondering, something must have been said at that meeting.
Well, I don't recall asking or getting any extra money for that. The paint machine was replaced last year. We bought a brand new one.
That's the one you do on the sidewalk?
Right, we do the
Okay.
crosswalks and the parking spots at the beaches in downtown. Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, Mark, you had said you adjusted it because of, so when you were doing this budget, you were looking at 2022. So 2022, you spent $1,875 on the machine, so that's when you told the board you were adjusting it.
Okay.
It's been a few while, yeah.
Office supplies. I almost fell off my kitchen chair when I read it's $300, and I'd order pencils and you'd give me a hard time. So last year you only spent $20. I'd like to knock some of that off of $300.
That would
And
be
I'll
fine.
tell you where I'm coming from.
We still have a cabinet full of stuff that,
Yeah. Half of it's mine too, that I brought from my office. I'm very stressed over the budget that's been presented to the budget committee. And I have no problem with paying the employees. That's who should get paid first. So we can't give this budget to the town. This is an insult to people. So if we could minimize some of the spending, it would be a help. And that's what I sit and do. Do you have a problem with that?
No.
You don't, I know. So could we knock off, the select board's recommending 1,800 and I'm recommending 900.
Are we on,
Are you on 392?
No, I think she's on line 620, office supplies, aren't
That's
you?
what we want.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I didn't draw lines. So I'm just halving it.
on,
The select board said 300 and,
take it down to 100?
thank you.
You can make a motion. You have to make a motion, Jenna.
You gotta remember, I used to do this.
I know, but you have to make a motion at some point.
The cleaner.
You have to make a,
You have to make
you have to
a
make a
motion.
motion.
Oh, yeah, I thought we can do it at the end.
No.
Let's do one line at a time, that's how we
Yeah.
normally do it, because otherwise I get confused.
So what do you wanna do?
So I want you to make a motion to amend line 620 to a new number.
Okay. We're gonna remove 200 from line 620, 4311-620 office supplies for the highway department.
That was a motion?
You second?
I would second.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend line 620 of the highway department, 4311, from the current $300 to a new amount of $100 made by Janet, seconded by Les. Does anyone feel a need to discuss, or am I okay to call a vote? I think I'm okay to call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
See 7 yeses, I don't need to ask for others. So that passes 7-0. We now have amended line 620 to be $100. Now, let's go to the next one.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
The cleaner has doubled. The proposal is 4,800.
Line 640.
640 is custodial.
I might need your glasses too tonight. 640, sorry,
Yep.
640 office supplies.
Custodial, because you want to title a clinic.
Okay. Oh, where is the cleaning now? Okay, 640. 300, no, they're 4,800.
Right, so last year we spent 2,000.
Yep. and
We
then-
budgeted 48, we spent 2,000, and we proposed to budget again for 4,800.
And I know how long she's there.
So is that line closed? Is that an
No.
actual, okay.
No, it's 2,400 right now, but I think there was Mark was booking, Mark was booking them to the wrong line and we had to move them. So there's 2,400 in that line right now. I just wanna check the line we were booking to and see if we fixed them all for you. You were doing building maintenance, right, Mark?
Yep,
Um,
just a dummy.
And you're
Right.
overspent on building
And
maintenance
431 is overspent.
by
yeah,
roughly the same amount that you're underspent on.
so,
It essentially evens out
We
if you
fixed
have
it.
line
But
431.
you don't do
and
that when you're
640.
going through the first.
so we have 200 more to
Right, we didn't
move.
know it. We're not,
So-
that, you caught it, that's good. We're
Okay.
just saying
You
it's.
don't.
We have 200 more to move, so it's 2,600 spent, so, and that should close that line, yes.
So
Unless her rates change, so right now, sorry to interrupt you, Janet, it's $200 a cleaning service, so and that's, I don't know how many times she comes to your building, Mark, twice a month? So it's
Week.
200, twice a week. Twice a week. So it's $200 she charges a month for twice a week. So if her rates change, then that number would change, but right now it's 2,600, so.
and she's there for 8 to 10 minutes.
But
We're not here to micromanage that department though, are we? I mean, that seems like we're getting into the weeds on micromanaging. This is
No,
what
I
I'm just looking
agree.
at the time.
Christina's telling you what it's gonna cost us, whether she's there 8 minutes or 8 hours, that's what it's costing us.
If you wanna cut, you should make a motion,
Yeah.
and we should move on.
Yeah, okay, so I make a motion for 4311, 640. The cleaner
Mm-hmm.
is $4,800. Last year, we spent 2,000. But now, Christina, are you saying that
It's
there's
20
more than the 2,400?
It's-
There's 2,000?
Yeah, it's 2,600 we spent.
So when was that posted? Because it's not on the most recent.
No, I told you that December 2023 is not closed out yet. So we've corrected these, they're moved now, but when we printed you this copy, they weren't moved yet. So the copy in front of you doesn't have your full 2023 closes yet. It won't for at least another week, so. But they were booked, they were just booked in the wrong line. So we spent 2,600.
And the select board agreed it should be 4,800. And my thinking was bringing it down to 3,500.
So
That would work.
I guess my question, I was gonna encourage Janet to make a motion so we could, but I wanna just give you an opportunity. Is this
Right.
something you think is horrible? Is this acceptable?
Well, I think it's acceptable to take it down where we can cover the 2,600. I would go with the 3,000.
Yeah.
So he's even giving you a little.
Fine, yeah,
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
and that gives you a little wiggle room if the price changes, so it should be fine.
so let's make this formal. You wanna make the motion?
No, can you?
I can, all right. I will make a motion to amend line 640 of section 4311, which is Highway Department Custodial Services, from the current proposed amount of $4,800 to a new amount of $3,000. Can I get it seconded by Walter?
Oh.
That's okay. Thank you, Buzz. Again, anyone need to discuss? Not saying you need to discuss, I will call a vote. All in favor? Opposed? Abstention? Charlie, I didn't see a hand, I'm sorry.
I'm just thinking, I'll vote yes.
Okay, so that's 7-0. And it passes 7-0.
And can you tell me a little bit about the UTV? So you had asked for 2,000. Last year we paid 384.
Do you know what?
300.
Oh, this is line 670, 679?
679,
Okay.
yeah.
300.
Last year, we did 0.
According to
Oh,
our
so the
report,
UV.
current year spending to date is 0, Christine. I don't
I'm
know,
just
again, if that's
going in.
accurate, but that's what our
It
report
is still
said.
0, yeah. But 2022, we spent 50, this, for 2023 so far, it's 0 still.
Do you think you can do anything with that? I wouldn't put a 0, that's for sure.
We got 300 in there. I would be uncomfortable going any lower. It's a mechanical machine. We use it daily during the summertime. We need money to do the maintenance on the machine.
Okay,
If
Thank you.
we don't
That's-
need it, we don't spend it. So
yep,
That's why we have you here, to give us your
yep.
insight. Thank you.
The next one is 681, the catch basin. I went back also to 22, and it doesn't seem like we have been spending a lot of money on the catch basin. Last year was $346. Proposed was 2,000.
yeah, that's
And I was just wondering about,
That's
If we
that's
could
another
block
one
it.
of those hidden type of deals. The catch basins out in the street,
Yeah.
a lot of them are made out of cinder blocks. The salt takes a toll on them. Some years we replace 3 or 4, some years we have to do dozens. And it's different every year.
okay,
2022, they spent $2,524, and then that 2023, 345. You do have Green Street to, that catch basin there potentially, but I was trying to think of many more, so.
There is more, we have
this.
a line in the budget for, some catch basins
Oh,
in the projects up on Beach Street in that neighborhood.
The only other one is, 430, streets and bridges. And that was 500 last year,
Sorry, which,
430.
430 small equipment?
I think she's ahead of us.
Oh, 4319, I'm sorry.
Okay, we haven't opened that one yet.
Yeah, we're still on 4311.
Okay, so do we close out 4311?
We need to close at 4311 before we move on, right?
Okay.
I can give you a matching number.
Well, we took out 1,800 and 200, so it's 2,000, even I can do that.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, no, I'm not calling the vote yet, Charlie, go ahead.
Thank you. The 4311, 682, the sand and gravel, you're overspent, but that's just due to the summer, right? Frankly, you having to repair.
Exactly, we used a lot of that money to buy material to fill in the washouts on Bristol Hill Road, in combination with the planned paving money for up there, so.
Yeah.
And we're higher, we're at 48,000 right
And
now.
I,
Oh, okay.
and I did ask for extra sand and gravel this year, because all of our gravel roads, with all the rain we've had this year, is washed, even where it didn't wash out, it washed the fines out of the material, so everything really needs a new.
Because that looks like a place that you actually asked for 35,000, but the select board gave you 30,000.
Yeah.
But to you, it's like,
Yeah.
I might go over, I might not,
Yep.
who knows,
You
it's
never
all
know.
based on
Yeah.
the spring flood and what.
Hopefully we don't have a wet year like we did last year.
Okay.
If they open it as like a flood, FEMA flood damage, we try to put in for that money, but the money doesn't come back in the same year.
Right.
December 22 just came back in October of this year, and we got
We weren't even
16,000.
sure we were gonna get the declaration for the June, July floods.
Yeah.
We
We
did.
did get the
get that,
declaration, but we did file what we needed to file, but we probably won't see that until sometime next year.
And you never see that on a document like this.
No, you'll see it in revenues,
Exactly,
but you
yeah.
don't see it, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
The only other question I had, Mark, is on 4319, and it's just a question. On, you don't want me to do that?
I'm gonna ask you to wait because we're on 4311, we'll get to
Okay,
4319
that's all I have.
eventually. All right. Any other comments or questions?
I got one comment.
Go ahead, Walter.
Mark, I appreciate the work you do. I saw those people out there in the rain. I appreciate seeing them go up and down my street at 2 o'clock when there's snow out there. I appreciate what the highway department does for me.
Thank you.
Mark spent a lot of time with me. It's been-
Yeah, we spent a lot of time at his house.
I don't know what to tell you. It's just like, it just keeps coming, the water.
It's been the worst I've ever seen. He also spends some time in another place.
All right. Not hearing any more comments on section 4311, I'm gonna let's resolve this. I'll call a vote. So I move that we approve the final budget for the Highway Department, section 4311, in the revised amount of $726,615. No, wait, did the math wrong.
Yeah.
$724,815.04. Did I get it right?
Yes.
5 cents, 5
Yeah.
cents.
Yes, and 5 cents.
Yeah.
Oh, 5? I had
No, it's
4.
four.
Oh, you're right, I'm sorry, you're right.
4 cents.
Yeah.
4 cents.
I really would like all these numbers to be rounded to the nearest dollar.
Yeah.
But in any case, so that's the motion. So we've amended the budget number to reduce it by $2,000. So assuming I said it, I'll say it again just to make sure, $724,815.04.
Yeah.
So if you're voting yes, you're voting to approve the highway department in that amount. If you're voting no, you're voting to, we would have to go back to discuss some more because we're not leaving here without approving the highway department. All in favor? Aye, 7. I don't need to call the nays and the abstentions. That passes 7-0. All right, so let me now go to highway projects. I will make a motion to move section 4312, which is highway projects, in the amount of $260,541. Can I get a second?
A second. Yep.
Okay, it's seconded by Sue. 265.41, good. Again, Mark, anything you want to say before we start asking questions? I mean, you already kind of made a comment.
Yeah, like I said, I would rather see it stay with what I asked for, to stay with what we had planned. I know the plan kind of took a back seat with all the floods this year, or last year, so I think if we don't maintain as much as we had been doing, we're gonna slip a little behind on the paving.
I will make a comment and say that I have some same comments I have shared with people, including some select board members, that I have mixed feelings. I always like to see cuts in the budget, but when I see cuts in the paving line, I think that it doesn't really reduce spending, it delays it, because in the end. Now, the one thing, I think I was the only committee member, but at the discussion in the fall, while the select board was working on this, the select board has talked about, and they included in their priority letter to us, that they want to relook at how we maintain roads. I've talked to our select board chair about this at least twice, and although he's not running for re-election, but the thought was, instead of just resurfacing roads, to look at less frequent but more thorough road building. He was hoping that he would get your expertise to help figure out how to potentially do a better job at that. I don't know how that affects the numbers and the costs.
Well, more frequent overlaying delays or prevents the frequency of complete rebuilding of the roads. If we do a maintenance overlay, that's what we call it, a maintenance overlay, put down 1.5 inches of top over a road before it starts falling apart, we extend the life of that road another 10 years without having to come in with a reclaimer, grind the pavement up and regrade and redo the whole thing, so.
And what is the difference between that and chip seal? Didn't you used to do chip seal?
Yep, we still have chip sealing in the budget. Chip sealing is a liquid asphalt and then stone chips spread on top of it. It's basically the same thing as a top coat. It's not as good on heavilier traveled roads because it will move with the traffic.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
I forgot.
it's just a choice of where you would want to use that type of maintenance.
You don't have that in the budget.
But the select board
cut it.
Yep.
cut that.
Okay.
Yep.
But we did it this
Yes.
past year.
Yes.
Okay. I hear what Mark is saying, and I don't necessarily disagree with him, but we're working so hard to cut this, it just, I don't know, the thought of putting an additional 100,000 in, just, I'm not at this point willing to support that, so, I don't, nobody's made a motion yet, but I'm
Don't
just
we have
sharing my
to be
thoughts.
careful not to be setting policy as well? Seems to me if we add significant
I
to this,
hear-
we're kind of
I hear,
going against the select board.
I hear what you're saying, and I don't know legally exactly what the answer is, but my point of view is not, because if we give money in the budget to the town, it doesn't commit the town to spending the money, it makes the money available. The highway department and the select board will still make a decision on how to spend the budget. One of the reasons that I don't personally spend a lot of time trying to figure out, should that line be $200 or $100, is that I think all of our department heads are good. They don't spend money they don't need to spend. If we give you 200, you only need to spend 100, then that's all that gets spent. And as much as I want to spend $100, I don't want to spend the time in this budget meeting. I want to look for places to save thousands of dollars instead of hundreds of dollars, is what I'm trying to say. So I think if we put more money in, it doesn't tell the select board you have to spend it. We're not sending a policy, we're making the money available. Now, having said that, I'm not making a motion, I'm not saying we should put the money back in, but if someone feels strongly, I appreciate you, you're a lawyer, you know more about it than I do, but I wouldn't rule it out of order. I'd be open to suggestions.
I just want to also share, the board did encumber $32,000 of that paving line, and to go forward into this year as well, but the intent is to repair the parking lot, and.
Here at Town Hall?
Yeah, so they took the 32,000 from 2023 and moved it forward.
You tried to get that through the first and second year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why they tried to encumber some of the money so that they could at least get that project done this year without costing any extra.
Okay. So, any other questions, or anyone
No.
want to make an amendment in section
It's just one,
4312? Go ahead.
okay, I'm going to 4319 or is,
Nope, we're gonna finish 12 and then we'll go to
12.
19. 19 is,
yeah,
After
I
12.
didn't touch any of that.
okay,
I don't know if we're allowed to, can I ask why?
sure, you can ask.
The select board did not approve that, they only approved for the 250,000 and not 350,000? What was the reasoning, what was the thought?
Paul explained it was they were looking more at a plan for doing more construction than just covering paving every year. So they wanted to cut that back so we could develop a better plan.
Okay, got it.
Well, and
Obviously not
I think to
under-
be totally transparent.
Yeah.
This is typically, which I've never been a big fan of, the area that we hit because it's a big number in the budget.
Yeah.
And we needed to get money because the budget's so high. And I've always thought highway, Mark's usually really easygoing about his budget, so he takes the heaviest hits.
Yeah.
And paving, maintaining the roads, it's all discretionary spending anyways. You don't have to, you can drive on gravel roads forever. It doesn't make any difference. It makes our job easier to take care of them this time of year, but if you wanna drive on bumpy, rough roads, then it's up to the
Right,
budget, you know.
Yeah.
yep. Walter?
The worse the roads are, the more we pay on maintenance for our vehicles.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, I don't disagree with what anyone has said so far, so.
Well, we do, but what, is there any road that's outstanding right now that's that bad that would have to be? Any roads, how many roads are we talking about?
We're in fair shape. Upper Birch Drive and Bear Mountain Road are in pretty bad shape.
Yeah.
Bristol Hill Road washed out this year, and it's basically just a patch job on it now. It still needs to be hot topped over. But yeah, we're in fair shape, and if you, I hate to say it, but if you do want to save some money, 1 year probably won't hurt us too bad.
That's what I was going for, yeah.
But you don't want to.
The point
Make
is
it
that
happen.
if we use the paving line as a piggy bank, we shouldn't use it year after year.
Correct.
It's really not avoiding an expense, it's delaying an expense, and I agree with
And the
that.
more you delay it, the more it costs.
I have heard you say that before, and that makes sense to me. If you get to the point where the road then really starts to degrade, a repair job is more expensive than a
Right.
cover job. I think I've said what I'm gonna say, I'll shut up. Does anyone want to make a motion or ask another question, or should I call the vote to close this section? I see the steam coming out of Charlie's ears, so I'm gonna wait a second.
No, I'm good.
Oh,
I wanna see.
I thought you were thinking
I
about
wanna
it.
see if the select board acts on it anyway.
Okay,
I think this is reasonable for 1 year.
All
and
right.
see what the select board does.
all right, I think I think I'll call the vote then. So I'm gonna call the vote to finalize approval on section 4312, which is highway projects, in the original amount of $260,541. So if you're voting yes, you're voting to approve this budget section. And no, obviously you're voting against. All in favor? 7-0, we are approved. Now, we will go to 19.
How about that?
How about that?
So,
So let me make the motion to get it on the table, and then we'll take your comments and suggestions. So I make a motion to open discussion on the highway, street lighting and bridges budget section, which is section 4319, in the amount of $35,500. Second, please.
Second.
I got Buzz first. So we have a motion on the table. Again, anything you want to say before we open it up to questions? Let's go ahead, Janet.
Just very simple question. Under the bridges, you have $500. First of all, I'd like to leave what I was gonna ask was, I believe it was $9,000 you got last year from Bridges and Streets. You got a grant last year.
Not a grant, we did get, so we've got money last year and we've got money this year that are for bridges.
I don't know anything about this year,
No, we did, I just can't tell you what the amount is.
but it was like $9,000.
It's 128,000 last year, and then this year is, I can't tell you the number, I'm not sure we've gotten it, we've been told we're getting it. 2022, we got $128,000. We can't spend it on anything but bridges,
Right.
which we don't have, that's not enough money to do much for a bridge, which we have one red listed bridge, which is really a box culvert. And then in 2023, we did get money, but I haven't gotten the check yet. Usually we get a copy of the check from US Treasury. I can't tell you what that amount is. It adds, I think it moves it up to 150 roughly, but we can't touch it for anything but bridges, so.
And just
That's
sits,
all I
it
was
just sits there until we use it.
And we have to return it if we don't use it. We have to use it by 2020, it was 2026, right, Mark?
26 or 27?
I think we have to use it by 2026. So we can't do anything with it. If we don't spend it, we have to return it. If we, sorry.
Yeah, and it was our thought to get the engineering done for the Danforth Road Brook. It's a structural plate arch in there now that is red listed, and the thought was to go with a box culvert across that road. That was,
But the cost
a year ago, that was 250,
500.
500.
500,000 to replace that about a year ago. So we know we can't do that, and that's when we put that warrant article in, trying to put some money aside potentially. But we can't, and we thought, oh, we could take this money they gave us and put it into this fund. No, we can't touch it, we have to return it if we don't spend it, so. On bridges only.
And anyways, Janet, the $500 that's in that line is for all the rest of our bridges. If somebody bumps a guardrail and we have to replace a piece, or any small incidentals on a bridge, that's what that $500 for. It's not for engineering a new bridge or rebuilding or anything. It's just in case something happens to a bridge, a safety thing, and we have to fix it.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Like the slab Village Bridge, that's got wooden rails on it. Somebody could hit that, break a rail, we have to go buy new timbers to repair the rail.
Mark, you can shoot me, but I think you could cut this for 1 year with that money sitting. So if something happened to a bridge, you could use that money for it. It's up to you though.
Well,
It would
Peter
only
paid
be a
all,
one-
it doesn't matter.
It would only be a 1 year savings, obviously, because if we have to return the rest of that money, we have to put something back in the budget again, but.
And it's a rare thing that something happens that we have to use that money anyways.
But it's nice to have
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's not a big chunk of change either.
But can I just, a little unclear, the federal grant money that you have, Can that be spent on engineering the bridge and then just let the plan sit until further money is available?
I'd have to look into it to be sure. I believe it could be, it has to be, the purpose is very specific to bridge. But I think it would cover it, and I think it would cover engineering, but we did have it engineered already, didn't we? Like McNally?
We have preliminary engineering,
Preliminary
yes.
engineering, yeah. So I can look into that, that's a possibility, yeah.
The bridge thing, that the state or the federal bridge aid program for the town to get in, it used to be we could just apply, we got this much money, we want to get on the program and replace a bridge. And when the funds were available through the bridge aid program, they'd do the bridge. I think it was last year, the year before, they changed how they decide which local bridges like that get repaired, and they decide the priority. It has nothing to do with the town's wishes. So we could spend the money on engineering, and that bridge may never come up on the state aid program. It has a very short detour to get around it if it fails. So that's one of the things they use to prioritize where the money goes. Danforth Brook, if very, very short, less than a mile detour to go around that bridge. So.
And every year they take off, I think they take off 30 or 40 projects and they add. So
They add even more than that.
they add even more than that, so we're never.
Growing list.
Right.
Did you get that question answered?
No,
So let's go back to
Okay.
that before we move on.
okay. On, God, now what to do with it? On 4324, 360.
No,
Oh, I'm
we're still on 4319,
Oh.
so
Okay, good.
but you asked about the 500, you got that answered for,
Yeah.
okay. So, any other questions on street lighting and bridges? No motions to amend, so speak up now, because I'm gonna call a vote and we're gonna move on. All right, so we're gonna vote on final approval of section 4319, which is Highway Department, streetlights and bridges, in the original amount of $35,500.
Can I just ask one thing?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at this wrong copy, but shouldn't that $500 be added to the 35,500? Or
It is.
Did I say the number wrong? It's 35,500.
No, you did, but the way it looks is like, this is 35,500, right? And they're asking for that, 35,500, but the 500 is up here, so wouldn't that be 40?
No, it's 35 plus 5 to get to 35,500.
Oh, up top, oh, I didn't even see that one there, okay, sorry,
Okay.
just kidding.
We're okay.
35,500, yeah. Sorry, I was looking at it wrong.
All right, so if you vote yes, you're voting to approve the budget as original, as unamended, and if you're voting no, we'll talk about it some more. All in favor? 7. I don't have to do no's and votes. That's approved. Now we will move on to 4324 solid waste. So I will make a motion to consider section 4324, which is Highway Department solid waste disposal, in the amount of $402,835.49. Buzz will second that for me, and we now have a motion on the table. Again, before we start asking questions, Mark or Chuck, anything we should know about that you wanted? No, didn't think so, but I just wanted to
It's all
ask.
trash.
It's all trash.
I will just point out one thing, if you look at line 110 and 121,
Yeah,
when the accounts were set up formally under 110, we were advised by our payroll company that those are full-time positions, so we had to move it to 121. So it's not a new position being added, we had to leave the old one in the budget for 2023, and then for 2024, it's moving to all the charges are moving to 121, and the budget is staying with 121.
okay, so section 110, which is a full-time position, when we don't have a full-time person, is 0 in the proposed budget, but there was but it was budgeted last year. So all the actual spend for last year and the money for the position next year is in line 121.
Correct.
That makes sense to me. Is everyone else okay with that?
It just needs to be a 1-2 instead of a 1-1 with how they do things.
Sorry, I
It
didn't.
just needs to be a 1-2 instead of a 1-1.
Yeah, we weren't aware of this when the line was
Yeah.
created formally, so, the payroll company said change it.
Okay.
How do we feel about the new staffing configuration and how things are in the service we can provide?
With our new lead attendant? I
Yeah,
think
and how many part-times we're using, how is it working?
we're short part-time help now.
Yeah.
We have Chuck and then 2 others, Arthur, Ori, and Art Tangway. So we are currently.
Oh, we're down in the ten,
Oh,
we're down
yes.
in 10.
We're
Yes,
down
we're
to
down
just
to
that,
that.
yeah.
Currently.
So if you need a second part-time job, Charlie.
We'll take you. No kidding.
But yeah, we're short, we're making out all right. We will use highway department personnel if we need to.
I have seen that
So,
recently, yeah.
We did 3 people left last year, we chose not to replace them last year, and then a 4th one left at the beginning of this year.
And how many are we planning on hiring?
we would like 2 part-timers to come on board to fill the schedule.
Because right now the schedule is not filled
Correct.
with the current setup.
Yeah, well, they're filling it, but we're paying one guy to do what
It
2
did-
people should be doing.
When we have someone from the highway department take a shift, are they getting paid out of this
No.
No.
120 line, or they're just getting paid the
Just
highway
getting
line?
paid out through highway.
Okay,
I mean,
so
it's
it's
not-
not extra hours, it's just a rearranging of where their hours are being
Right,
spent.
and instead of working in the garage, they go down there and work, and it's usually a matter of a few hours, it's not like they pull a full shift down there.
But covering the busiest time of the day or something like that, okay.
Or if Arthur Borey's been in and out quite a lot, we
Yeah.
can fill in for him while he's at doctor's appointments or whatnot.
Yeah.
So the only question I have, and I guess I'll mention it to Chuck, because I think I say it every year, and you haven't been here in past years, is it's not specifically something I'm asking you to answer now, but my understanding, and I certainly support it, is that the town's expectation is that the tipping fees for like the construction waste and the other things is sufficient to cover the costs of handling those things. So I don't want to get into any numbers, but I just want to kind of get just some reassurance, yes, that's what we're doing, or no, we're going to go back to the select board and talk about changing the fees.
Yeah.
That is still your understanding of how we're running the department, am I correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
We try to cover the costs as best we can with the fees we charge for the C&D.
Yeah, and
It's
you
all-
don't, and
it's
you don't
all-
have a scale, so it's all a
Right, it's
guesstimate.
all guesswork, but I think and I don't have the numbers of what we collect.
And I didn't really, I want to be careful, I don't really want to get into a half-hour discussion about how many dollars did we collect for
Yeah.
tires and how much did we spend to get rid of them.
But you want to know about if
I just
it's
wanted to
on the
confirm that
philosophy.
we're all on the same philosophical page is really what I want.
I don't have an updated number for 2023, but for 2022, you did collect $157,000.
Right. I don't have any feel for what the additional cost, I mean, I think just handling the municipal waste is a service we provide, but everything else should get covered by fees, and you're telling me
Correct.
within a reasonable range, that is what we're doing.
Yep.
Thank you, that's
And-
exactly what I
and-
wanted to hear.
The baling and recycling that we're doing is helping a lot. It's taking away
Oh,
from what goes to the incinerator. We pay $85 a ton to send it to the
right, so we
incinerator.
got
So-
going.
I don't have the number off the top of my head. I just looked at it this morning. They sent me a report for the year on how much cardboard we had pulled out of the stream, and it's substantial.
Do you have any other towns bringing cardboard?
Alexandria is bringing us some of their cardboard. They come once a week, once every 2 weeks with a trailer load.
And
We
is
bail it up.
it 2 of your guys, or is it 1 that you have to? I remember when you used to go
Well,
to Plymouth,
it's-
they were paying 2 guys.
With Chuck here, and we have one of our tenants has learned to run the skid steer, and the highway is backing out of that quite a lot. We still help if we need to, but they're handling all the baling now, or the most of it.
We do also, from Hebron, not specific just to cardboards, but they do pay us, 27, is it 22.5?
22 something.
22.5.
The town of Hebron is allowed to use our transfer station. They pay the town a flat rate, and whoever in Hebron wants to come here and dispose of their trash, they can. Hebron also provides those people with curbside pickup, so I think we make out fairly well with the amount of people that actually do come down.
Yeah, I wanna know this person that doesn't want curbside pickup.
They're out there.
And they just ask for
Weird.
their invoices, so they're continuing to pay, yeah. There is a rumor, I've been approached by an individual who may submit a petition warrant article. I just think, I haven't, he has obviously until February 6th to do that, but it is to remove any charges at the transfer station. Not the permit fee, but to make it so that it's based solely on taxes. So just in case it comes in, I'll just give you that heads up.
I think by law, the town is only obligated to handle the MSW. We're not obligated to take
Right.
the C&D and the tires and all that other stuff. We're not. So I don't see how that can.
I know, I'm not saying anything, I'm just relaying information.
I'll be at town meeting with you to vote against that. All right, any other questions? Anyone have a amendment they want to give, or any questions, or should I call a vote for this section?
I just had a question
Go ahead,
on
Buzz.
410,
410, okay.
electricity. Now, is that your electric bill?
Yes.
And you had, it shows your actual is $265, but you're still asking for $1,200. Is there room for?
To be honest with you, I never see the electric bills for over there. They are all handled up here through the front office, so
That does seem really low.
it seems low, yes, but, because that's all three-phase power at the to run all three compactors, so.
I'm gonna get booted, I can't look at it yet.
And those run for hours and hours, so it's
Yeah.
stuff. Oh, yeah.
I
I
would
don't
say,
know how.
I
and
would
they-
say,
I don't know how it can be that low.
They're all
Doesn't make sense.
separately metered too, so.
My computer stuck, sorry.
It's one of those things I've never really paid that much attention to, because the bill comes to the town office
We pay it.
and they pay it, and as long as it's paid and nobody's bugging me, I'm fine.
Anybody?
I hear you, Buzz. I
No,
guess,
I think.
I was gonna say, I have no facts you don't have, but that just doesn't make
No,
sense.
it doesn't to me.
Yeah.
That's just one of the.
But Buzz, you
reasons.
have to take into consideration, if you look at this, you don't see any heating bills, do you? If you look at the highway department, there's no heating bills, because they have a wood stove down there, and that saves a lot right there.
So, for the transfer station, sorry, I was thinking highway department too. This is strictly for the transfer station, and it runs, March of 2023, it was $61, that's a month. And then it ranges anywhere between 16 up to December, we had a $51 bill. So it's only roughly that a month, maybe a little bit more, so.
Three-phase power cheaper.
I don't know why it's so cheap.
Do they still burn waste oil?
Yes, we still burn waste oil, and we collect it at the transfer station. That's what heats the highway garage mostly. We do burn the wood we pick up beside the road.
I was just gonna ask about the wood, where do you get, because you still have to.
Yeah, it's mostly rotten wood that
Rotten.
falls in the road, we pick it up and take it back, and
So can I go to 4324?
We are in 4324, so
Okay.
yeah, go ahead.
My question is, on the hazardous waste day, there's a note here that said
365.
it may increase by 40%. attributed to costs of the vendors, and final numbers will be available late October.
I've had to take the note out,
So
sorry.
has that journal entry been made, or?
The next sentence says received updated number November 6th. New number is 5805. So we could adjust, we actually saved, remember Mark, we heard about this one?
Yeah.
So we can adjust that number down from 63 to the new number, which is 5805. It was 63 when they billed us, but because they're giving us money off because we supply a dumpster, the new number is the 5805. So that number can be adjusted.
Okay, yeah, that's not on our report. Okay, I'm done. Mine was a no change.
Yeah, on the computer one, there's these.
Oh, it's right here, but
Yes,
it's
yes.
not up in here.
Right.
But we have to make the motion, right?
Yeah, you do.
Well, did you want to,
No, I just wanted to make sure it was addressed.
does anyone else want to make a
We
motion?
should though, because right now, if you don't change that number, you're paying 6,300 in that line.
Well, we're providing 6,300
Right.
and Mark will spend 5,805 of it.
Right, so it's up to you. I mean, if you want to leave it in there, that's fine, or you can adjust it to the correct number, which is the 5805.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion for $500? Buzz, you.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I make the motion that we lower line 365, 4324, 365 to 5805 from 6,300.
Can I get a second?
So,
Seconded by Les. So we have a motion by Buzz, seconded by Les to amend line 365 from the original amount of $6,300 to a new amount of $5,805. Do we need any discussion? I think we're ready to vote, right? All in favor? You get 7 yeses, okay.
Can I ask something about line 810, the new equipment line?
Yep.
We had budgeted 5,000 last year, we didn't spend any, did that any get encumbered? There, or that's got returned?
Which line
well,
number,
let me
Charlie?
make sure that nothing got spent. I'm sorry.
Oh, you think it's actually spent?
Nothing got spent.
Okay,
New equipment is 810.
so that just got returned.
Because we're looking to purchase new dumpster, and the price has just gone skyrocketing, so, just like everything else.
Got it.
I'm sorry, Charlie, I'm trying to do math real quick to get ready for a new final number. Did you get your answer?
Yes.
Did you need to make an amendment?
No.
No, okay.
402, 340, 49.
I have 335. Okay.
Okay, and I can,
Oh,
Any other-
I didn't do that one.
any other? Nope, I don't see any other comments, so let's go ahead and close this section. So, we will move for a final vote to approve the budget for solid waste disposal, which is section 4324, in the new amended amount, and please speak up if I did my math wrong, $402,340.49. Good, thumbs up from my expert here, good. So we took roughly 495, about $500 out. All in favor?
Aye.
7 yeses, we're passed, all right. All right, fire betterment. This should,
That's not me.
did we already do that? Let me get my other piece of paper out. Why is it on the agenda if we,
That's actually
It's-
better,
it's-
Jeff.
it's-
You might have talked about it, yes.
okay,
You
okay,
might have talked about it.
okay. I think that's all your sections. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Good to meet you, gentlemen, thank you for coming.
Sure. Good luck finding someone.
Thank you. Again, we have applications.
Oh, good.
If you like, there's some blank ones. If you like,
Make sure.
come
it's
see
not-
me.
Oh, take it, that's all.
How's it going, guys? Pretty good.
Oh, boy.
You wanna do fire veteran first?
Is that yours?
It's an expense for the general fund, but shows as a revenue on ours, so I usually speak on it just because.
All right, so let's do it. We need to handle it at some point.
Yeah.
So,
What number is that?
so it's section 4339. I will make a motion to introduce consideration of the fire betterment budget, which is section 4339, in the amount of $10,000.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Charlie.
And this is still a 50-50 split, right? Isn't there some?
That was
that's a
the
slide.
intent of it years ago. I think the cost is shifted now. $10,000 might get us 2 fire hydrants, and that's not even including the installation. So cost is going.
So you
up
think
on it.
you were saying that we are shifting more of that cost onto
The water.
water payers
Correct. Yeah.
rather than the general.
Yes.
And what's your thoughts about that?
It's been 10,000 for years. I hate to be the one to ask for more, but
How much are we talking about?
I never ran the numbers, but
But you requested 10,000 and the select board
they
funded it
okayed
that
it.
amount. Like you
Yeah.
said, it's been that forever,
Yeah.
so.
And if I try to change it, it becomes quite the debate. So I think I'll leave it at that.
For us, it's really just shifting who's paying, right? So all the water customers are town of Bristol residents.
Right.
We're just saying, and those water customers are the people that are
I was
probably
thinking-
benefiting from these fire hydrants because they live next to them,
I was
right?
gonna say, when you first brought that up,
I'm
I'm
just
like,
trying to think about what's fair.
oh, I was gonna say, when you first brought it up, I'm like, is this fair? And I'm like, but are there any fire hydrants in the section of the town that don't have water
Yeah,
service? I don't
no.
think so, so it's not horribly unfair.
No, I think
With the
that,
right- So I do a water service, so whether I pay my water bill or my tax bill, I'm gonna end up paying for it.
Yeah.
And you don't
Yeah.
have water service, so
No
if
fire
we fix this the way you want, your water bill doesn't change and your tax bill goes up, you might wanna stop
No,
doing
I talked myself into it because I'm like, who actually has these hydrants? And it's the people that pay their water bills. And having a hydrant, I think
It helps your fire
it helps
insurance.
your insurance, right?
yeah,
Okay.
townwide it will.
Yeah.
And the fact that the fire department can take water from the hydrant and
Oh.
bring it to your house.
Oh, okay, that's true too. Just because one's a mile away is still a benefit to
Yeah.
someone that doesn't live right next to it, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I have no idea if it's true or not, but I'm comfortable enough that your benefit is that share of 10,000, we don't need to change anything.
No, yeah, I think it's fine. I thought it was more unfair to begin with when I started talking about it, then I talked myself in the other way, so we're good.
All right, any other comments? No. So let's go ahead and vote to finalize final approval on section 4339, which is, what do we call this? Fire betterment in the original amount of $10,000. So if you're voting yes, you're voting to approve it. Voting no, you're voting that you don't want to approve it. All in favor? 7, good, approves, and it is approved. Then we will go on to, do you care if we do water or sewer first?
Doesn't matter to me, sewer's starts off as sewer. I think.
All right, we'll do sewer first. Sewer operations. No, I guess this is all sewer. No, that's not right.
I think it shows up as solid waste, whereas it starts.
It does show up as.
So we need
Which is
to
why I was confused.
let you know that so the first on sewer, you'll notice that the first two categories, 4324 and 4325, we've had to move those. With the what's happened is Department of Revenue codes for 4324 and 4325 are solid waste numbers. So in the past, we've used these numbers, but it always conflicts with the Department of Revenue codes. So with the new system, we've had to move them to new numbers, and we put the new numbers on, in the comments where we moved them to.
Oh, and that's why all these are zeroed out.
Right,
So we won't even vote on 4324, 4325, we just skip those.
we just skipped those because we were able to move even the 2023 budget numbers for those. We were able to set those up under the new numbers because it was conflicting with the Department of Revenue codes.
So we should start on 4326, you're saying, operations?
No, we're gonna start on 4325, which is operations, yeah.
No, 4326, yeah.
26.
Yeah, okay. So I'll make a motion to move consideration of section 4326, which is sewer operations, in the, you guys can check this, make sure I get the right number here, but I have $548,185.98.
I'll second that.
Charlie will second that. So a motion by Paul, seconded by Charlie for sewer operations, sections 4326.
Okay.
Jeff, same thing. Did you want to say anything before we start asking questions or
No,
making
I
changes?
think,
Anything changed since you put this together in
no,
September?
I think the biggest thing is, just hiring certified operators. We're just having a little bit of difficulty finding certified operators to fill the positions.
Right.
But that'll be my goal over the course of this year, to definitely address that. I think for the most part, everything's fairly level funded, with the exception of pay increases and inflation on some things.
So you're essentially down one employee right now for sewer?
Yeah, we had a
part-time
we were looking to get one more full-time, in the part-time position, we would probably go away from that. So I think what we're gonna have to do is hire actually certified operators rather than going to the OIT program, the operating training.
Yeah.
I was gonna wait at the bottom, it's
Yeah, yeah.
2,500.
Just some requirements that the DES is putting on us, so.
Do you suggest to your employees that they take advantage of tuition assistance?
They're aware of it, but we do have training courses through Grant State Rural Water, DES, New England Water Works. There's quite a few training courses that are available that we participate in. And it's a way for the guys to get certified and as well as keep their certifications. They're required to do so many training hours every 2 years to maintain those licenses. What I am gonna encourage is the water guys go for their wastewater license, and I'd like to see my wastewater guys go for the water license, because that's the direction that DES is headed in order to operate the combined water and sewer system, so.
Okay, any other questions? Any suggestions for changes? I don't hear any. All right, good. So we'll call a final vote. So we're gonna vote to approve the budget for sewer operations, which is section 4326, in the original amount of $548,185.98. So straight yes or no vote to approve this budget. All in favor? Aye. I think that's 7. Yep, got it. Okay, that is approved 7-0. That was quick. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, let me see for a second. So, sewer capital projects 43, is it, the next number in the sequence would be 4327, which is sewer capital projects. Does that seem?
Yeah.
Yep.
Can I just ask a question out of context to you while they're reading? Can I?
So let me just, so this
Okay.
is the old section 4325. It's the new section 4327, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to move the budget for the sewer capital projects section, which is section 4327, in the amount,
60,000.
yeah, what is this?
Mine is not.
My screen
showing
says
that.
0, but I got 60,000 written on a piece of paper, so
It's 60,000.
$60,000. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Charlie. So, let's talk about 4327.
A couple of years ago, you had bought another truck, right? Small truck, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you did make that purchase?
We did, yeah.
And so this would be replacing another vehicle in your fleet?
Correct, it replaces a 19, I think it's, no, 2008, one-ton dump truck. It will be replacing that.
With a similar vehicle?
Correct, yeah, just a, one-ton dump.
We were able to graciously use their new truck today to deliver people to the polls.
Yeah, sweet.
So, did that answer your question about a truck?
Yep.
I see why I was confused. I was still looking at old section 4325, so when I went down to 27, I got exactly what I expected to see. In case anyone else is confused, I'll
We
mention
didn't
that.
want to remove that section until
Okay.
you've seen it, now we'll remove it, so there's like no confusion. So,
Okay. Any questions, any comments? No? Okay, let's go ahead and vote to finalize approval of section 4327, which is sewer capital projects, in the amount of $60,000, which is the original unamended amount. Simple yes or no vote. All in favor? Give me a raise your hand. We got 7. That is approved. Okay, so the next section is 4328, which is sewer surplus in the amount. So I make a motion, try again, Paul. I make a motion to introduce consideration of the budget for sewer surplus, which is section 4328, in the amount of $1.
Second.
Seconded by Les.
And
Is everyone clear on what this is and what it means?
yeah, I just want to know, so when there's 450,000, what way does that money go?
So, do you want to do this, or do you want me to
I can,
finish up?
try to. So the 450 that was actually spent was, it's the surplus that was generated through user fees over
And that's
a
headed
period
to
of
the
time.
capital reserve?
It's headed to the capital reserve, and it's something that's accumulated over the years.
Yeah.
And lots of times we request to pull money out of the capital reserve, but the funds that we raised during the course of the year exceeded what our expectations were, so we're able to put that kind of money back into it. It's like taking it out, putting it back.
And this amount is more than 1 year, it's not
Yeah,
one
it's probably
year.
3
It was
years,
It
right?
hadn't been done.
Oh, it hadn't been
for a while.
done for a few years. Okay, that's why it's such a big number.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a lot of surplus in a single year. That's why I was like trying to wrap my head around that number. So when do you end up making the decision to spend out of that capital reserve versus asking it for in the budget?
When I'm generating the budget, I look at what my revenues from customers and all the other parts of our revenue sources. And if I need to pull the money out of the capital reserve to cover these capital costs, that's when I do it during the budget process. But not until probably about April is when I would make the decision to go to the board and say, I would like to move this surplus amount.
Got it. So you ask for it here.
Yeah.
But just because it's here, it still might come out of capital reserve later, is what you're saying.
The surplus would go in.
Okay.
Coming out of capital reserve, it would show up on my revenue side. And I don't know if you have a copy of the revenues,
Not
but
yet.
I think I've
Oh.
taken some of I can't remember if it's water or sewer, but I've taken some money out of the capital reserve in order to fund the budget, because I'm not sure if I'm gonna cover it with just user fees in general, so.
Okay. So it gives you leeway of both in years when you're over, to be over and put it somewhere, but years when you're short,
Yeah,
to cover being short.
Exactly.
And that's your purpose for it, you're saying?
Right, exactly. That line, I didn't think it totaled in the budget, but we needed a place to have it shown.
So is it usually 100,000 above or below is what we're talking about?
Yeah, lots of times it's like 35,000, but what
35,000.
Yeah, We put it to $1. But what happens is that zeros
Because you don't know
out.
if it's negative 35,000 or plus 35,000.
What I'm trying to do
Either
is
way.
zero out my revenues against
Yeah.
my expenditures, so.
Yeah.
And right now, that dollar, right now gets us close to that, so.
So Charlie asked a question that raised, I'm not clear, I just want to be clear. So for example, going back to a new dump truck, which is 4327,941, we just approved that.
Yep,
So does that $40,000 come out of your budget, which is funded by current revenues, or does it come out of
the
capital
intent is,
reserve, or do you have the option to do it either way, whatever works best for you?
the intent is to use capital reserve money,
Okay.
but that kinda goes back to that 450,000, so. That 40,000, actually $80,000 for the truck,
Right,
I
40
see.
in water, 40 in sewer.
yeah. I could say I wanna take that money out of capital reserve, so that goes into our checking account, we pay for the truck. And then, now that money's sitting in there, but we had raised enough money through the course of the year through user fees to cover the cost of the truck. So there, that $80,000 sets in our checking account that could have stayed in the capital reserve. And that's when that huge shift gets put back in, so. It's a paper trail that we're trying to generate by doing that, shuffling the money back and forth, but, that's the intent, is to have these capital projects and capital equipment come from capital reserve. But this year's revenues, I was just looking to see what.
But if you're over, you're over. You're
Yeah.
just gonna spend it out of that.
Yeah, I was just looking to see, yeah, 2024, I think. Sewer, I'm planning on taking $70,000 out of my capital reserve to fund this, help fund the $60,000 cost in my capital reserve, so. And there again, once I get my revenue numbers finalized, then we can determine if we need to pull that full $70,000 out of that.
Okay.
So you basically have a set of books then, right? All by yourself?
Yep, he's an
Yep.
enterprise fund, he has to
Yep.
be a separate business.
But the select board, you said, has authority too over the accounts, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
they're the agents to
Yeah.
expend, I think is what,
And we're working also to have a reconciliation through the finance office. So, we're getting that set up now. Carrie and Jeff have been working with the contracted finance company to get that done, so.
I realize it's a 2007 truck, but is it completely gone? I mean, is it still usable? What happens to that truck is that gonna be a secondary truck?
no, it used to be a utility truck,
Mhm.
like the guys you may see them drive around with the big utility box. We took the box off of that, we put a dump body that was on a 1983 truck onto that truck. So we just got to the point where its useful life is over, so.
Right, it's all patched up. Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna call a vote, it's $1, I don't think we're gonna change it, so. I'm gonna call a vote for final approval on section 4328, which is sewer surplus in the unamended original amount of $1. So it's a straight up and down yes or no vote. All in favor of approving? Yes, 7 yeses, so that is approved. All right. So I think the next section is 4711, so I'll make a motion to introduce consideration of the sewer department debt service, which is section 4711, in the amount of $91,332.42.
Second.
Seconded by Les. I don't think anything has, I don't think there's
So,
any changed, yeah.
There was a comment that says final numbers will be available until November, December on line 997.
Mhm.
Do we have a readjustment on 997 or we haven't received numbers?
So what we've done, Jeff, do you wanna You wanna do it, or do you want me to on that one?
You can jump in if you want, but, it's, that line is the Central Street project. We haven't actually, agreed to the terms of our loan that we'll need to get to cover that project, but that's a estimate that we put in there as a placeholder, so.
So we calculated it off of a 30-year loan with low interest. We have funding from CDS funding, which is Congressional Directed Spending. So we have funding from that. We have funding from CDBG, and we've also been authorized up to $2 million for funding through a low interest loan with USDA. So none of it has been finalized still, because we are also waiting for Economic Development Authority to finalize whether they're giving us money or not.
But it's something that's gonna happen in the year 2024.
Correct.
Yeah.
The Central Street will definitely start in the year 2024. If we do not, so there are two projects here, Central Street, Force Main, and Lake Street extension, which is the Economic Development Corridor. The money that's coming from the Economic Development Group is $3.5 million, but we haven't gotten a final answer on that. If they do not fund, we are not doing that project, and the money wouldn't be spent, obviously. We would correct the loan. If we can do that before you close your budget, we've been waiting for a year to finalize. We've just given them updated information, and we're hoping that we'll get that information, the updated answer soon. That's all I can say. So the placeholder that we put in there is based off of a 30-year loan. It's in the town's debt service too that you've already looked at, and in this debt service here.
Yeah, because it's a split, right?
It's a split, yeah.
And it's gonna be here in debt and in interest.
Yes.
We're gonna see 4 places in the budget.
Two places. Yes,
Debt,
one
interest,
place.
and both.
We see, yes, so we see debt, principal payment and interest payment, both in general operations and in the sewer department.
Correct.
So yeah, all said and done, we're talking about 120,000, right? Over a year,
It's about
if we add everything together.
Each year for the next 30 years, if
Well,
the
no,
whole plan comes
we
together.
do anticipate so we have to do Jeff, do you want to explain the short term versus the long term?
Well, yeah, we just have to borrow short term in order to get the project going. And once the project's complete, I believe we go to rural development and finalize the loan through them, and then we'll come back with some
We
new
believe
numbers.
this number's coming down in the coming years, but we had to put this amount in to cover the forms of debt if we get all of the funding that we're supposed to get, so.
So I'm glad you brought this up, because I've spent a lot of time thinking about this line in particular over the last week. I challenged myself to try to find a place in the budget where we could make a big cut. You know, let's not make 100 cuts of $100, let's find a place to make a big cut. And I said to myself, this project basically has 3 components in it. It's got rebuilding the Central Street
Pump station.
pump station,
Yeah.
collection and pump station. It's got rebuilding the force main, which gets it from the collection point on Central Street to the treatment plant out on Ayers Island. And then the third part is extending the sewer collection, the sewer pipes, the sewer collection up Lake Street from where it currently ends at Mill Stream
yeah.
to the intersection with Riverdale and Keyser. And we talked earlier in meetings about we thought it would be a good idea to challenge ourselves, not just is it a good idea, but is it a urgent, necessary idea? And I came to the idea that, gee, you can't run a sewer system without a collection point and a pump, but you can run a sewer service without extending the pipe. So would it be an opportunity to reduce the scope of this project and make it cost less? And in my mind, I was thinking that it would be less urgent. It was something we could just do in the future. So the numbers don't the numbers aren't finalized. I don't have any final numbers. I didn't even get that. I gave Jeff a heads up that I was gonna bring this up at the meeting and he might have something, but I'm sure he doesn't have final numbers because they don't exist. So you notice I'm taking advantage of the fact that we're discussing the section and I haven't actually made an amendment or made a suggestion. When I talked to Jeff, what he told me, which was news to me, he said, Paul, you're right that the parts of the project are not technically linked. You don't have to extend the sewer to justify rebuilding Central Street. But the funding potentially has some linkage because part of the justification for the people we're asking grants for are that you have to rebuild Central Street because you have a bigger collection area, so now you need a bigger pump and a bigger hole in the ground to dump everything into. And more importantly, what Jeff said to me was, he said, yeah, this is a nice to do. It doesn't have to be done. I'll do whatever the town tells me to do, but it's not probably something that can be delayed. What I was told, which I didn't really understand, was when we asked the different government agencies to help us with the $20 million project, and they said yes, and then we went back to them and said, oh, we're not doing the project, they were quite unhappy with us. They basically said, well, we don't really want to hear from you again, go away. So Jeff and the other folks, this is how I understand. I might have exactly right.
Yeah, you tell me.
But Jeff and the rest of the folks went back and said, okay, now we got a combined project that's roughly $8 million. And they said, yes, we can fund that. And what Jeff has said to me was, if we go back to them again and say, ooh, thank you for saying yes, but we're not doing it,
Bye,
they're
guys.
basically not gonna pick up the phone when we call them the third time. So my thought of delaying it probably doesn't work. If we take it out, we're probably saying we're never gonna do it. Part of what I'm struggling with too is that the cost to extend the service out Lake Street is about 2/3 of the total project. So I was thinking if we take it out, we avoid 2/3 of the cost. But the grants to support the extension are much more. So if you cut the Lake Street extension out, you really maybe would save half.
No, not even.
Maybe not even half. So the numbers are all over the place. They're very fuzzy. And part of the problem is that I'm really struggling to make up my mind that if someone else made the motion to amend how I would vote, and I'm the one that's proposing potentially to make a motion. So I want to make sure you guys are all aware of this. Hold on, let me just finish. I want to make sure you guys are all aware of this. I was kind of hoping that, if you all say, yes, we definitely know what we want to do, and I'm only one vote out of 7, then it doesn't matter that I'm struggling with this. The committee would have a clear direction on which way to go and figure out what we want to do with this. Okay, I think I've run on long enough.
I at this point, just if we do get a better figure before town meeting, just to be made aware of it.
Right.
So we can make that adjustment. If this ballpark is off of what it ends up being.
So I can tell you that it's so I can, just to throw some numbers at you, the Lake Street is a $4.4 million project, just the Lake Street. If we get the funding, it's $3.5 million that they will give us in grant. What we had to do that was combine the two projects for them, and they would agree to the 3.5. If they say no to that project won't go forward, and the Central Street will still go forward. What is it? It's 2.6 million?
2.6 with contingency of another.
300,000. Yeah, so it's 2.6 million, roughly 2.9 we'll estimate, because there is a contingency of 300,000. So it's 2.9 million for the Central Street and Forest Main together, and we ended up with 1,050,000 and another 500,000. So depending on where it ends up, we're financing about $1 million, just over $1 million, depending on the contingency. But when you add in the possibility of getting a $3.5 million grant, that's why we haven't given up just yet. So.
And I think rural development they're looking at it as the whole project, the Lake Street,
Yes.
Pleasant Street. And I'm not sure how they'd feel if we said, okay, now we're not gonna do the Lake Street, so that's then coming out of the.
Jeff and I, when I first got in as town administrator, I got a call from rural development saying they never got notified we weren't doing the project. I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, hang on, let me talk to the board. So when we went back, the person that was doing the rural development really stressed that if we turn this whole money back, they are not going to look at Bristol for funding for a little while. So we tried to save some face and we asked them, well, can we turn it into a loan? If we don't take the grant, can we still take opportunity with the loan? And that helped us in their eyes by doing something more. So, but they're looking at also as a whole project,
So, I mean, the other comment that Jeff made to me, which really rang true to me, was, gee, this is a great opportunity. If we extend the sewer service up Lake Street and it's a $3.5 million project and we're getting $2.5 million in grant, we're getting $3.5 million in value for $1 million. That's a much greater rate. That's a much better ratio than any other town project I know of. It's hard to walk away from that. But if we're saying that the budget is not acceptable and we need to find other places to cut, this is the only big thing that I've identified that I can think of to propose as a cut. So I really like the project and I kind of want to have it happen, but I still want to cut the budget, and so I'm still struggling to find a place to do that. So that's kind of summarizes where I personally am. I think at this point, I would do the project, but I didn't want to just sit here after having spent time over the past week talking to a bunch of people and struggling with it and trying to understand without sharing some of this with you guys, so that in case you have a very different point of view, you get a chance to speak up and share your opinions.
What kind of position does this put the system overall in, of the sewer system?
The extension to the Lake Street, or
And the replacement of the Central Street pump station?
That's huge. The Central Street pump station is very poor condition. We're replacing the top roof about every 6 months.
Yeah.
And it's just, our drives are going down constantly. So that's
It's
huge.
becoming a huge maintenance issue.
It is, and it has been for several years now.
Okay.
And we've had several failures on the force main line, so that's gonna be great to have that replaced. The Lake Street extension, when we looked at the big $22 million project, whatever it was, we were looking to go cross-country through Danforth Brook. So Lake Street line was part of that project, but it didn't have to be a very big line. Now, when we're asking them to redirect those monies from the Danforth Brook onto the Lake Street projects, we're asking them also to increase that line size to get us up to the Riverdale Road. So if they, in the future, 10 years, when you guys want to do it again, I don't know.
Hopefully you'll be retired by then.
They're gonna be that much closer, you know, with a line that could accept a sewer to the lake, so. And who knows what those dollars would be in the future to run that extension up there at that point, so.
So part of the situation right now is that the cost for all of this is being split 50-50 between the sewer budget and the general revenues. So that's why there's lines in debt service for general operations and debt service for the sewer. I'm always in favor of cutting wherever I can, but to me it's much more important to cut in the general operations part. The spending for the sewer department is funded out of sewer user fees. The spending out of general operations is funded from lots of places, but primarily from property taxes. That's where our residents, I believe, are most concerned. But, so I had talked about that. But then I struggle with the fact that, I've said this to a couple of people, I'll say it again for you guys, for your, maybe hopefully, enjoyment. I'm a guy, I'm a retired engineer. I'm trying to solve a problem. The problem is that it's neither my responsibility nor my authority. To change the way this thing is funded, you know, what's the split, is a select board decision. So I can have whatever opinion I want. I basically told myself I need to stop talking about it, because even if, I mean, I can share that with other people, but I can't make that decision. None of us in this room can make that decision. So given the information we have now, it is a 50-50 split.
And
that's-
about the 50-50 split, that's like one of those situations where you could probably debate both sides
Oh,
and
sure.
have a good argument
Sure.
about what the case is. So.
So I think I've talked enough that I've basically convinced myself that I'm not gonna make, at this point, a motion to amend. But, and I don't really wanna spend a whole lot more time on it, but I did wanna, I spent a lot of time over the past week talking to people and thinking about this and struggling with this. I wanted to share it with you in case you guys have a viewpoint or an idea that I haven't thought about, because I would love for somebody else to have a good idea.
I will just add that the person that we are communicating with is out of the office until the end of the month. He's received everything, so fingers crossed we'll know a better idea, but.
Okay. Walter, go ahead. I'm
I'm happy with the way the department runs. I'm gonna make a motion that we leave it alone, we vote on it the way it
Okay,
is.
you don't need to, I'm gonna just point out, you don't need to make a motion, you're asking me to close debate and
Yes.
make a final vote on this. I will take that. Nobody is disagreeing with Walter, I'll go ahead and do that. All right, so we will vote on final approval for the sewer department debt service, which is section 4711, in the original amount, is it 4711? Yeah, in the original amount of 91,000. Is that
Yep,
right now?
91,000.
Yep.
Didn't we talk about the
Not
number
here,
and
the
the,
next number,
what's that?
the next category.
Oh, thank
This
you.
one's right.
In the original amount of $91,332.42. So simple yes or no, all in favor? Aye, we have 7 yeses. Hallelujah.
That'll make it easier.
Now we'll go to 4721, which is, so I'll make a motion to consider the budget for section 4721, which is sewer department debt service interest, in the amount of $25,523.33.
What did you say?
Did I get the number wrong?
Oh, okay, okay, yeah, good.
$25,523.33.
I'll second it. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Did I say the number wrong the first time?
No.
I just didn't hear the beginning.
Okay, so one of the things in my struggles over the past week was the split between general operations and sewer is supposed to be 50-50. But the interest expense in general operations is not the same interest expense at sewer. So I think Jeff and Christina are gonna give us a number that we're gonna amend to. Is that correct?
Correct. I have it if you want. So, we think, so originally there was a placeholder placed in this and we adjusted it as we were trying to get better numbers. It appears we missed the interest. The interest in water and the sewer line is 24,000, but in the town it's 16,730, and we're recommending to reduce it to match that line. So 16,730.
I'll make a motion to amend line 997 to 16,300.
730.
$16,730.
Seconded, so motion by Charlie, seconded by Paul, to amend line 997 of section 4721 sewer department debt service interest from the original amount of $24,000 to a new amount of $16,730. So that's about an $8,500 reduction. I don't think we need to talk about that. Let's just vote and approve it. All in favor?
Makes sense, yeah.
Okay, so that's not the total amount, we still need to add the other 2 lines to get the new department total, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I just gotta do the math real quick, unless somebody else already has it. No. 760. 10. I got 17,253.33. Does anyone else have a number, and is it the same? You guys are still working on it, okay?
From the 24 to the 16.
16,730.
Yeah, so
All right, I did it a second time and got the same number, so I think I got it. Does anyone else need more time to do math, or, yep, I see people still working on it.
What was your number again, Paul?
$17,253.33.
You can always use my Dunkin'.
Oh, thank you.
I have 18,000.
I have 18,253.33.
250.
See, that's why,
I did it on my phone.
yep, okay, I agree.
So 18,000.
16 and 2 is 18. not 17.
253.33.
Okay, so, just real quick, any other comments, any other motions? No, I didn't think so, okay. So we will now vote on final approval for sections 4721, which is sewer department debt service interest, in the amended amount of $18,253.33. Again, simple yes or no, all in favor? Approved 7-0. Excellent. Okay. And that's all the sewer sections, and now we move to water, right, Jeff?
Yep.
And it looks like we have a similar thing going on at the top
Yes.
Correct.
with 4324.
Right, so
So you
43,
can change to another number.
right, so 4324 and,
Here we only had one number we had to change.
Yeah,
But
just the surplus transfer, yeah.
but, so I'm gonna make a motion to introduce discussion of the water department operations budget, which is section 4331, in the amount of $502,560.43.
again, 502, 560, yep.
Yep. Sue, you wanna second that for me?
I'll second it, yeah.
Thank you. So motion by Paul, seconded by Sue, for for water operations, 4331, 502, 560, 43. I'm assuming, Jeff, anything you need to bring to
No,
our
it's
attention?
pretty much the same, comments that I had for the sewer, with the certified operators and the,
Okay.
need to get one or two more on, so positions filled.
Did you have anything in the water? No, okay. I'll wait a second while people are looking through things, but it doesn't sound at this point that anyone had prepared any questions or motions to amend.
Oh yeah, it's the assistant operator position here. That's definitely haven't been filled all year.
Right.
Right. And the other thing that I heard from Jeff, doesn't really affect our budget, but just to let you know, when I was talking to him about some other things, he said that right now, he mentioned it before, he wants his sewer people to get certified as water operators and water people to get certified as sewer operators, because the state is giving him grief about operating the plant and doing like a test on the weekend in the sewer plant with a guy who's licensed to do water, and it could potentially make his life more difficult, so he's trying to solve that.
It's costing more in on-call right now.
Yeah.
Pay, so.
But
Hoping to address that soon.
that's why we're
Soon.
paying the big bucks to be a department head. He's solving it.
We hope.
We'll get it.
Yeah.
So I suggested he talk to one of our state reps and get him to change the law to make life easier.
Yeah.
All right, I'm not seeing anyone, I think everyone is through looking through the pages. I'm not seeing any more questions or motions to amend, so speak up now. Otherwise, I'm gonna call a vote. So we're gonna vote on final approval for the water operations budget, which is section 4331, in the original unamended amount of $502,560.43. Simple yes or no vote. All in favor?
Oh, yeah.
You don't have, okay, I got 7 yeses, so I don't have to.
No, I was thinking something.
That's okay. So, we will now go to 4332, which is capital projects. So, 31, 32. I'll make a motion to consider the budget for the water department capital projects section, which is budget section 4332, in the amount of $60,500. Seconded by Walter. So, this looks somewhat similar to sewer because the big item is the half cost of the new truck.
Yeah.
And then,
Other projects.
but I mean, SCADA was in the sewer too, and you really do things by splitting
Yeah, a
it down
lot.
the middle and charging half to water. half to
Anything
sewer.
that, yeah, anything that I can justify doing, so I do it that way. Just,
So, I don't think we had, I mean, speak up if I'm wrong, I don't think we had any questions about any of the other capital projects other than the spiel I went on sewer, and we got through that. So, if you have a question on the water capital, please speak up. Not hearing that, I will go ahead and call a vote.
Just real quick.
No.
What is, sorry, real quick, what is fiber scatter tie? What is that, scatter tie?
it's, yeah, SCADA, it's abbreviation for a supervisor control and data acquisition. It's a way for us to monitor what's going on in the system. And just this past year, we tied in the tank site and our primary well out there on Fallow. So I'm able to see that right on the computer, if the pump's on, the gallons per minute that it's putting out. The tank level, we've always been able to see that, but it's giving us better information,
Right.
more accurate, so.
Okay.
But that's what it is, and we're just continuing to build upon that, for better control over the entire system, water and wastewater.
Right, okay. I was just curious on that.
Also believe, Jeff, that the improvements help stop us from getting struck by lightning.
I hope so, we
We
got
think.
struck twice.
We got
by
struck
lightning.
twice by lightning, and upgrading the SCADA system to the, knock on wood, we haven't gotten hit again yet.
Oh, good, that's a good thing, that's a good thing. Yeah.
Haven't had a lot of lightning this winter.
No, I know. We're holding our breath.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah,
All right, so we'll now vote on final approval for the Water Department Capital Project Section budget, which is section 4332, in the amount of $60,500. All in favor? 7 yeses, hooray. And 4 against and no abstentions. So now we will move on to 4333, which is so I'll make a motion to consider the budget for the water department surplus to capital reserve, which is section 4333, in the current amount of $35,000. Can I get a second? Walter? Yeah, thank you. Once I ask, I get multiple hands. Again,
So why $1 in sewer
I was gonna
and
say,
35,000?
Charlie,
I
I think
just don't
this is
see
another
it.
one where we're gonna get a request to amend from our
Okay,
people in
this doesn't
charge.
make sense why the decision would be different.
Yeah. let me just,
Unless you really do run.
Let me just check my revenues. Yeah, I think that can go to $1.
when we talked about it also, in the past Excels, this line doesn't normally apply to the budget, but with the new system, it does, that we can't remove it. So when Jeff and I talked, we talked about reducing that to $1, because we never know for sure what that number will be.
So make a motion to amend 4333,900 to an amount of $1.
Seconded by Walter. So we have a motion from Charlie, seconded by Walter, to amend line 900 of section 4333 from the original amount of $35,000 to a new amount of $1. And this is something that Jeff and our acting town administrator, acting finance director have endorsed, so I don't think that we should have a whole lot of.
He
Just
tried to
a
recover,
little
didn't he?
Okay, so I'm gonna call vote so we're gonna make a final vote on, no, we haven't, did we vote on the $1 yet?
We did vote in the amendment.
Thank you. So we're gonna vote on the amendment. We're gonna vote to approve or disapprove the amendment to change the line 900 from $35,000 to $1. So simply as no, all in favor? 7, we are approved to amend that. Now, since there's no other lines in there, I think we're safe to move on to now final approval. We're gonna vote on a final approval for Section 4333, which is the Water Department surplus to capital reserve section, in the amended amount of $1. All in favor? 7. Excellent. So that approved. And now we go down to water
Debt service.
debt service. So we get principal first, which is 4711. So I will make a motion to move consideration of the section 4711, which is water department debt service principal, in the amount of $55,173.33. Seconded by Les.
What is the water system bond? What project was that?
That was the era funded project, which was the booster station install,
The one on North Main?
North Main, and then the
North
rehab
Main and
of,
Hillside?
yeah,
Okay.
and the storm center rehabilitation and chemical addition.
Oh, it was a number of projects tied together. You did all at the same time.
Yeah, it was one of those shovel-ready projects back in the days.
So this, to me, is, we've talked about this before, this clearly, these are bonds that we've sold.
Yeah, I just forgot what that
Payments on,
project was.
So, yeah,
I just wanted to know what it was.
I don't think anyone was gonna make an amendment, but I don't think I want to even entertain the
No.
thought of amending these numbers.
Yeah.
We-
I didn't know what it was for.
Yep, that's a valid question, So, I'm gonna move to call a final vote. We're gonna vote for final approval of the water department debt service principal, which is section 4711, in the original amount of $55,173.33. All in favor? That approved, that's 7 yeses, so I don't need to call for the noes and the abstains. And now we'll go to I'll make a motion to consider the budget for section 4721, which is water department debt service interest, in the amount of $6,414.18. Seconded by Buzz. Thank you. Again, it's the same 2 projects, it's just the interest part of the payment as opposed to the principal part of the payment. If somebody has a question or comment, please speak up. Otherwise, I will call now for a final vote on approving the water department debt service interest budget, which is section 4721, in the amount of $6,414.18. All in favor? 7 yeses, so I don't need to go to. And I think that finishes all the stuff that you're responsible for. Did I miss anything?
Janet had a question earlier.
Oh, God, I don't even know where it is right now. I put everything away.
I'm fine with everything.
You know what it was? It was the phone. A cell phone that's a dialer or something that
Yeah.
is new. Can you just explain what it is?
Yeah, the SCADA system and the tank level controls, that controlled when the pump come on over to Fowler, was through copper phone lines. So we're getting rid of those and we're going to, it's basically cellular service, which, I probably got this wrong, but I think it's a SIM card that we purchase or pay a monthly.
That sounds right.
Yeah, monthly fee for, and that SIM card goes in the unit to broadcast that information from the well to the tank and back to the SCADA system.
It's essentially pay a cell phone bill to run that
Exactly,
system.
yeah, to run the system, and I think there's 3 of them. I think there's 3 of those SIM cards at the different locations. So those 3 cellular services, we've seen added to our budget, but we're taking away the copper phone lines, which was getting quite expensive to run those.
Are you getting good reception?
Yeah, knock on wood, so far, so good. I am concerned, if it did fail, just what it's gonna do to the, but our copper phone lines have failed in the past, we've worked around it. But I do have, for a while, we piggyback off each other and then make sure that the system's gonna work fine before we get rid of the antiquated lines.
Before you go, I just wanted to make a comment that I read in the paper that that Jeff and the department were doing public tours of the system. They did 3 over the summer, once in June, July, and August.
Yeah, I think we did.
And I went on one. I found it very interesting. So if you have, I mean, it took at least half a day.
Yeah, it
and,
does
and,
take
and
a-
any questions I had, he was happy to answer. So if you're all interested in the water and sewer system, I'm assuming he's going to do it again next year. I would encourage you to do it. I found it very. Now, again, I'm a retired engineer. I like that type of stuff.
Yeah,
but-
Walter and I have been on the sewer one.
Yeah.
Okay.
in the
They
past.
do a combined one now where he
Yeah.
just does both systems. So I just
And we
wanted
can break it up, if you didn't wanna do the complete one, we can just do the water side sometime if you guys wanna check out that, so.
Yeah, I think the most interested in the sewer department is just the redundancy in the system, so that we don't have to spill into the river.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Muffin Monster's kind of neat too. To see what it does.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you for coming.
Well, thank you guys.
We're done with that. So there's one more
Sorry,
sec,
sorry.
there's one more section, and I'm gonna introduce it with a motion, because I need a motion before I can explain to you what's going on here.
We can't just zero that out.
So I'm making a motion to reconsider the financial administration section, which is 4150, in the currently approved amount of $188,462.08.
Oh, we've done it before.
Can I get a second?
I'll second, but I don't know what you're talking about.
Finance.
I'm gonna explain it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I went back at some point, probably back in December, and decided there's so many pieces of paper that things get a little confusing. I need to go back and make sure everything is right and every I is dotted and every T is crossed. And I read the minutes when we covered this section, and we approved a budget for this section of $188,462.08. That's not the number on the spreadsheet. So then, what, am I getting this right? Am I saying something
So
wrong?
the spreadsheet that you were given, that number was correct, the 188,462. Somehow, if you remember correctly, there was a conversation in that meeting that the supplies got left off the budget, and I wasn't gonna make you go back and try to look at that. If you'll look,
Oh, is that where the error comes
Yeah.
from? I thought I made a boneheaded error.
so if you look at line 620, you'll see $500 because we had moved.
The difference is $500. You're
Yes.
telling me it's because of that, so we don't
Yes.
need to do this. You'd already agreed to eat that money.
So, yeah, what happened was, when we moved the system,
Okay.
when we moved this line out of the system, it zeroes the budget out on us. So I didn't notice that when we presented it to you. You all set?
So
Thank
let me explain it this way, Walter.
Hey Jeff.
We approved a budget for
I just need not to-
188,462.
tomorrow. Can I have
I've
that
looked at the
set?
spreadsheets
And
since then, and they have a different number in them.
Yeah.
I went back and looked at the recording of
Thank
the
you.
Thank you.
meeting we had. I said, oh, did our minute taker make a mistake? No, she wrote down the number I said. So I forgot about this thing, and I said, I must have said the wrong number. I don't know how I would have made a mistake like that, but it needs to get fixed. So that's why I brought it back, that's why I put it on the agenda, and I brought it back up, because I wanna make sure the number is right. No, because it would put $500 more in the budget. I'm not gonna do that.
I know.
So I'm now gonna make a motion to close consideration without doing anything to this, and just leave it the way it is.
Can I just add, while we have it open, can I ask a question that
Go
I
ahead,
asked
please,
you?
go ahead.
So Paul informed me that we have not hired someone.
We have not.
Why isn't the job posted on the website then?
It's not, a decision hasn't been made by the select board.
About how to
Correct.
manage the position between human resources and finance.
Correct.
And I think that's what you told me.
Yeah.
So you did have the
We
correct.
do a
So,
work
I
session
missed that.
scheduled for
Who's-
Thursday.
Who are they hiring?
We are.
Basically Bob's replacement.
Oh, okay.
But the job is not posted because the select board has not made the final decision about how they're gonna write the job, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
That they're going to advertise.
Christina, I still would like to be on the search team.
That would be up to the board, how they do that, but they do a work session this Thursday to discuss that position and whether it's just going to be finance or finance and HR, so
I used to do
hopefully.
HR too.
Yeah, so,
I've been working in this for 45 years.
so I am doing HR and finance currently with contracted finance assistants, and then Wendy also helps with some of the HR duties, so. But I'm doing the majority of what Bob did, so.
So Charlie, you just,
It makes sense now.
no, but you just put another thought in my head that I hadn't thought of now.
I'm sorry about that.
So, but if we budgeted to pay the new finance director for the year, and it's already January, we haven't hired them yet, should we?
But then again,
should
we don't know if this is gonna be actually a split position.
Yeah, we
that
already
costs
know
money.
that wages are up and we need
Right.
all the money we can to hire a good person, so.
We might do a full-time finance and a part-time human
Part-time
person, right? And then that will probably maybe exceed those costs,
Right.
right?
So I made the motion and you guys agreed with it. So now I need to make a motion to close consideration of financial administration, section 4150, without taking any action. Can I get a second to that motion? Seconded by Les. So I just want to close it out and move on to the next
I don't
thing.
think we
All in
need-
favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll close that out. The next thing on so we're done with budget sections.
We don't have to do this, we don't have to balance this back, last number out, minus the 35,000, we don't have to take that out of there? Or no? Cause you zeroed this 35,000.
We don't vote on we have never voted on an accumulated water or sewer water department. We do each section 43, 31, 43, 33 on their own. So no, I don't think we need to do that.
And we eventually will hold a vote on all the spending too,
Yeah,
in 2 weeks.
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So when we eventually approve the budget warrant article, that will have that change
That will
in it.
happen,
But we
okay.
don't have to vote on that right now.
Okay.
Okay, so the next thing on the agenda, which was on the agenda for January 9th and then January 16th, was to take a look at the draft committee report for the town meeting. So I have, again, now this was written back in early January because we were going to discuss it in January 6th, and I haven't spent a lot of time on it since then, so, but I wanted to share this with you. Why don't I just stop talking and give you all like 3 to 5 minutes to.
Can we contact you? Like, can we bring this home and read?
Oh, yeah, that's why I had multiple copies printed so that you could take a look at.
But we essentially just want to be more on the same page of what gets in the town report.
Right, and again, I wrote this, we hadn't done all the sections, so it probably not probably, I think it needs a closing paragraph to, but I'm gonna stop talking and let you guys read.
So, Christina,
Yeah.
can we get the report for budget expense summary? I'm not sure if you've run it yet, but Bob used to give this to us.
So that was manually done by Bob. That was manually done by Bob. He would do it every month. I can certainly work with the finance company to do that, but I have.
It's just data entry.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you know if they can't do it, I can't do it right now. Because I have to go in and data entry it all. But I will talk to them because they're really good and they might be able to do that.
Are we going to get the balance sheet and the revenue before the last meeting?
You have revenue and warrant articles scheduled for January 30th, the preliminary review of them. Yeah, it is. It's on your agenda for January 30th, the revenue and warrant articles. So they were supposed to be prepared for that meeting.
I'm sorry, I
That's
can't
right.
hear you.
They're supposed to be prepared for that meeting, the revenue.
For the January 30th?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask someone to scan it to me, because I won't be here.
We can even, you can't open the PDFs. Are you still having trouble opening the PDFs?
I'm sorry?
Are you still having trouble opening the PDF version?
Oh, yeah. I was on last night and I keep coming up to the white screen.
And does it matter if you open it in the invitation or the email?
No,
Either one?
yeah, either one.
We can try to do it as a picture and see if that works. for
Oh, I
you.
hate that because it turns around on you and,
But yes, all of the numbers that we can will be updated for your January 30th, definitely. But
I'm just concerned
make sure I get it to you.
what revenue versus spending is. And also I'd like to see how many people haven't paid their payroll, their property taxes in a while. I mean, there could be a chunk out there that no one's looked at.
I can look at that.
Right.
I can calculate that. So last time you had asked last year I think it was, I did calculate it and we were at 94 or 95%. So I can certainly do that again. Bills, so it should be a fairly good number because they were due January 9th. So I can certainly calculate that again.
It ended up being a lot higher than what we thought it could have been.
The amount paid was a lot higher than we thought it was going to be when we looked at it the last time. But I can certainly look at it again.
Okay, I just, when I call in, I forget from last year. When I call in for the January 30th meeting, does my vote count or it
Yes.
doesn't count?
As long as there's so you can't even have a meeting in the room if you don't have a quorum in the room.
Right.
So your vote does count.
Oh, it
So,
does?
Yeah,
Okay.
as long as you have a legal meeting.
You don't count towards establishing a quorum. Once we
Right.
have a quorum, we can allow you to vote through the screen and your vote does
Yes.
count.
But we have the roll call.
We have to roll call all the votes
Every
with
motion.
someone, when
Yeah.
someone is participating from
From Zoom.
remote.
Yeah.
So I know some of you are still reading, the other thing I wanna let you know is that when the original request for all departments and committees to submit their report for the town meeting document was January 12th. So we were gonna do this on January 9th, and when January 9th got snowed out, I contacted Wendy, and I said, Wendy, we haven't finished going through the budget. If I give you a report now, it's gonna be incomplete, subject to change. How firm is your deadline? And she said, well, the more things that are late, the more hassle it makes for me, but it's not a firm deadline. So she and I have agreed that I have permission to be late. I told her if it gets to the point where you can't let me be late anymore, let me know and I'll do what I have to do. But we do have agreement, we do have permission from town staff that I wanted to at least get through tonight's meeting where we did those last sections where we know what all the numbers are, because you can see, I put in like what I thought the current number was when I wrote that, but I wrote TBD because I knew they were gonna change between when I wrote this and now, and they have.
Is this time for me?
Yes, please, now I'm looking for feedback.
I think it's important to mention that the budget committee was in general agreement with the priorities set by the select board, particularly related to employee retention and attracting new employees.
I think Walter wants to say something.
Go ahead, Walter.
When we voted on the police department budget, I voted no.
Yep.
When we voted on the fire department budget, I voted no.
I noticed that.
A few years ago, I strongly supported and spoke at considerable length at town meeting about bringing our town employees up to the investigated values that they should be getting.
Okay,
And it was the vote of the town that we do it.
okay.
And they didn't. They went on a subject called merit raises. I don't have a great respect for merit raises. I've been a municipal employee. I see who gets them. I see how they get them.
Absolutely.
I'm all for cost of living raises. I'm not voting against the cost of living raise. But I am not going to vote to approve the town budget this year,
Okay.
as I've done in the past.
I am not supporting the town budget
I'm
either.
not gonna support it, I'm voting against it.
This is,
That doesn't mean I'm not gonna sign the document that goes,
The MS
thing
form,
that
right?
is the vote, because it's gonna represent the fact that I didn't vote that.
if I was working in my regular job years ago and I came in and I looked at this budget, one of two things, I would have walked out because there's something very wrong with this budget, or I would have called my manager. So it's the first time I've ever felt this strongly about things, and it just reads, you can read a budget, it's almost like a book once you get into it.
Are we weighting heavier towards merit raises versus other types of compensation? Is that a true statement that Walter and Janet are making?
I think we've gone back and forth over the years between ours.
What are we proposing for next year?
We have a wage scale, an actual wage scale based off of, it's a grade and a step program. So there is an evaluation, and the only thing that weighs heavily in merit is when they get their raise. So if someone scores, we have high achievers and they score over a certain amount, and they would get their increase as of April 1st. But it's based on a step. It's not this person gets 3%, this person gets 2%, this person gets 10%. That's not it. Everybody's is the same on the step where you move. But it depends on when it becomes effective.
Is that different than how we've done merit in the
That's
past?
just a report.
Okay, thank you. Is it different than what we've done in the past? We've done it multiple ways over the years.
Because I think at one point it could be between a percentage that they would get based on merit.
Based on merit, but we've moved away from that. The only piece that's based on merit now is when their increase becomes effective. So again, higher achievers would get it as of April 1st. And good achievers, doesn't mean they're a bad employee at all, they're in the middle, but they're not the high achievers, they wouldn't get their increase until June 1st. And then certain people who need to be on an improvement plan won't get their increase until they've met their improvement plan.
So essentially they stay longer on a step?
They would move, the plan is to move them depending on what is voted into the budget each year, whether it's COLA or step. The steps are approximately a 3% change, and so if you remember last year, we voted the 4%, 1% was COLA, 3% was the step. The only portion of it that was based on merit was the timing of when they got it. It was, they get their evaluations every year, but the only thing that was based on merit, And merit is said in here, and maybe that's a word we need to take out of the line, because it says merit increases. So maybe that's a bad word, but it is, we have to think of a better word.
Because I had the
That's
original
why.
perception that it was about we were changing how much steps we're getting, and we were giving steps.
I don't need to swim.
Oh, in the new proposal?
So didn't you adjust
Yes,
how
we
some
adjusted
steps were
it.
being paid, and you cut off steps from the bottom too, right?
Yes, we cut we used to cut grades, three
Yeah.
grades. There were 22 grades on the wage scale, and there are, I think, 12 steps. So, like for instance, there's a top grade I don't believe anybody's on. The next grade down is the town administrator. The next grade down is the fire chiefs. So on, and the police chief, not two fire chiefs, police chief, and so on until you get to the. So what we were finding is grades 1, 2, and 3. You weren't even hiring people at that. You had to hire them way up on the step because you can't get somebody at $8 an hour, even as a beach attendant. So that's why the steps grades 1, 2, and 3 were dropped off. But again, we're not adjusting them by merit. We're not saying, again, that somebody's getting this percent and someone's getting this percent. Everyone gets the same, it's just timing is the merit, based on merit. Some people will get it a little earlier than others, depending on.
I have no problem with the employees, absolutely none. I've worked with them, they're wonderful. How it was input could have been different. If you look at the big unions, they do half and half. Half 1 year, half another year. To me, you're setting Bristol up for financial fail within 5 years.
But if we're not competitive with other towns right now, do we just lose employees for the next year? Is that what we do?
That's the way they
I
do
agree
it.
with you in one way, but I also disagree with you on the other.
There's
hand
more
too.
than one way
Yeah.
of doing this, and just to
My
take a whole
opinion of what
chunk.
came out of that town meeting was pay our employees well. As far as I'm concerned, we should pay our employees as well as any town within this area. Never mind all these steps and everything else. I've been a municipal employee, I know what they are. I also know if you want good employees, you gotta pay them.
That's right.
And if you got bad employees, there's one thing to do. And I've seen it done, it can be done. And that's administration's fault if it isn't done. So I believe the town of Bristol told our government to pay our employees properly. That's what I believe. When I came out of that meeting, I was satisfied that the select board was told to pay our employees properly. And that's what I thought we were doing. I'm not one that follows lines well and decide, but we got good employees. We should be paying them. And if we don't have good employees, we should say goodbye. We pay enough taxes in this town that we should appreciate the services we're given, and we should appreciate the people that are doing those services. I'll tell you what, I'm not too thrilled about getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning and going out in the cold and the snow. For someone that answers the phone at 2 o'clock in the morning and comes and plows snow, he should get well paid.
Yeah, right. No.
I
I
thought
would-
that was all settled.
If I could get
didn't
rid
think-
of all the expenditure increases and just put it towards the employees, truly, we would survive because our employees know how to work their vendors. They know that. That's all I'm gonna say. On camera.
I can't just leave it at that. I tell you what, we gotta do something to appreciate our employees. And we can't just leave it as a suggestion, because I thought at the town meeting, we ordered that done.
So I would have to say that I think from the get-go of this committee meeting, it was clear that the priority for the select board was employee pay and to get them up where they should be. And I thought as a group, we all agreed none of us wanted to take that away. But on the other hand, you can't pay your employees but not pay for the tools that they need to get their job done. So not a
We have given this
May I
town
finish?
everything
Walter,
they asked for from this
Walter,
municipal.
may I finish? May I finish? Thank you. So the fact is that none of the select board was happy to come in with this type of increase this year. And we knew it was gonna be a tough road to hoe with town meeting, but we were firmly behind doing this for the employees. Unfortunately, a lot of those other costs were not areas that we felt that we could cut. So the budget committee has done what they could, but you also, we also could not find huge areas to cut. None of us wants to pay those kind of taxes, but we're trying to provide a level of service that we always have provided.
Can I add a comment? So I know at the time that vote happened, we did
Yeah,
adjust
I don't know.
pays then.
Okay.
So I don't know what year
I'm
it
not
was,
leaving till
Walter,
Sunday
so I
morning.
apologize.
yeah.
I don't know what I was,
Yeah.
hang on a minute,
I'm sorry.
that's all right. So when that vote happened at town meeting to pay our employees, we did it. But what's happened over the years is you only do a cost of living adjustment, and it may only be 1%, it may only be 3%.
Later in March.
And we got way behind still, and everything's changed so drastically that we're not paying our employees, again, what they need to be paid.
And we certainly
Bye,
limited,
everyone.
we certainly
Another one.
limited increases during the pandemic, there's no doubt about that.
I'm sorry.
We were limiting increases everywhere during the
We
pandemic.
limited I mean, so even the year when we split it, did we split it and then we said we were gonna do it the second year, we couldn't do it, we didn't do it the second year. So we ended up we've gotten, and this is just from memory, we've gotten behind the 8 ball over the years, and now this has put us in a spot again where we're behind again. Even just giving 4%, the 4% last in 2020, when did we give it? 2023, so it was.
Wasn't it just last year?
Yeah, it was
just last
but
year.
the 8%, the inflation rate was 8%. So you're behind the 8 ball then again.
Well, yeah, but everybody agreed on this.
Yeah, oh, no, I know, but I'm
We
just,
all agreed on this raise, we do.
Right.
The problem with it is this year is everything is going up.
yes,
Everything.
everything.
So when you look at it, and the town's gonna look at that, is they're gonna say, oh my God, our taxes are up to here. Everybody's getting all these glorious raises, whatever. They don't even look at the
No.
reasoning why it's happening or anything like that. So you've got all of this stuff happening at once. You're saying we're getting less from the state, right? Which was gonna happen eventually anyway. So all of this stuff has hit us at once.
Right.
So even in trying to figure out this budget, like even tonight, there's $225,000 to $230,000 extra they're asking for sewer and water. That's because of the truck and a few other things. So you added it up, it's $125,000 for sewer, whatever for water, or vice versa. So all of these things, and there's no way to really cut them. That's the problem, because they're all needed.
Right.
So there's need versus want. I mean, I'm really racking my brains looking at when you're asking questions. I'm going, how do you? It is needed. The truck is needed. All these things are needed. So it's going to be how we present it to the town and say,
Right.
this is why we're doing this.
Right.
So why it's big. We're not going to get around it.
But back to Janet and Walter's idea though,
Yeah.
and you finishing off this letter, I think it is the perfect place to mention
So I wrote
the
down-
overall disagreement among the committee about the number we ended up with. I think that's where you would add
Yeah.
their
So-
sentiment into.
So what I was
the
gonna
letter.
say also, Walter, is that you have the freedom to vote how you think is best for the town, and so when you say you're gonna vote against the budget, whether I agree with you or not, that's your decision. I would say that I'm expecting the town meeting this year to be contentious. So I would just suggest to you, I think that there's a good chance someone's gonna say, yeah, we think these numbers are not great. Can you get one of your budget committee members that didn't like this to explain what they didn't like and what they would want different. So there's a chance that somebody's gonna call for you and or Janet or anyone else who votes against this to explain a little more. What I struggle with is I don't disagree with what you said. I come back to kind of what Sue said is I want to cut things. I just can't find anything that's easy to cut. That's why I talked to Les because she's our select board, and the select board really controls all this capital spending about that whole thing about do we abandon the Lake Street thing. And in the end, I couldn't convince myself to do it, and you guys also. I mean, I don't want to go back to that. But I got a specific suggestion from Charlie to, comment that we agree with the first two, strongly agree with the first two select board priorities to retain and attract employees. I think that the point also is, yes, I can try to put some more in here about the fact that the budget committee is not a monolithic group, that we have quite a bit of difference of opinion, and not only did we as a group struggle, but we struggled with each other, and so they can know that too. I'm gonna go back to, so we've gone through all of the departments. So our next meeting, which is next Tuesday, is what we typically do. We'll get together and we'll go over the proposed warrant as it exists so that we'll be prepared at the public meeting to vote on our recommendations. We'll go through the revenues so that at the public meeting, when it ends, we'll be prepared to approve those. And any section that anyone wants to bring up, as long as you tell me, 48 hours in advance, we'll get it on the agenda, we'll reopen that, and we can consider making changes. I would be thrilled if someone can have some ideas that I didn't have, and you come back and say, we should look at cutting this line for this reason, we should look at this line for this reason. Because I've tried to come up with those, and I have been not as successful as I would like to be. And I think you guys are all in the same position I am, so I'm going to stop talking and let Walter say something again.
I think we should go back, and anything that exceeds a certain percent, and we tried to come up with a number that we vote against it, or we oppose it. There was a suggestion earlier in the year, and I think I'm the one that made it, that we put a cap of 8% on anything.
Other than employee salaries.
Even employees, there's no employee that goes over 4%, other than the top management. Yeah, they get big jumps. There's a big jump for the fire chief. There's a big jump for the chief of police. Not that our police aren't incredibly important, but the way I see it, there's no boss worth twice what his employees are making.
Okay.
At least not in this level.
I don't think of it that way, but I don't have the details.
But that's the
so
way I think
don't
of it. I
you're wrong.
always work for a living. And so do these people that were sitting over here tonight. They work for a living. They get up at 2 o'clock when it's snowing. If they're going to get 3% COLA when somebody else is getting 26% increase, I'm not thrilled with it.
Okay.
From that, you know what lines I'm talking about. I don't know the numbers right now, but anyone who's getting a 26% increase, it's coming out of my pocket and it hurts. I'm all for keeping the people we're afraid of losing, and I'm all for keeping the people that we're not afraid of losing from 26% increases.
Okay. Before we move on, did anyone else have either a suggestion or a comment on this? I mean, in some respects, this makes my job a little easier. It's easier for me to sit at home and spend 3 hours and write this and send it to Wendy. But I wanted you guys to have an opinion, have an option. I don't want to turn this into a group exercise and spend hours, all of us together, trying to write this. But I do want to take your input. So if you have any now, I want to hear it. If you have any over the next few days, feel free to give me a call, or more likely send me an email. I will probably touch base with Wendy at some point this week and just confirm timing and figure out what our, I guess I'll say my real deadline is, and we will comply with that.
We have to have the whole report to the printer by February 15th.
Well, yeah, but that includes our MS form, so I knew that,
Everything
Yeah,
has to be
everything.
to the printer
Everything.
by February 15th.
But you wanna put some stuff to
Yeah.
that.
well, yeah, sure. you want to do
Also the 14th.
Yes, you want to get it 80% done, you want to get it 80 to 90% done so that the last crush is just 10 to 20%, you don't want everything to hit at the end.
So there isn't a more firm date. As soon as you're ready, we'll take it.
I know, and that's what I got. I tried to get Wendy to give me a new deadline, and she's just basically like, no, you do what you need to do. So I said, well, if that changes, let me know. I get along with Wendy, I think it's okay.
When Wendy and I talked about it, we did talk about we thought it would be to allow you the more time, because you have to be able to write an article based on what you've done in the meeting itself. So, you're done.
I teased Les at the election today. I said,
We're not
we're
done.
gonna be in this meeting longer than they're gonna be over
Yeah.
there.
Okay, but we started at 7:30 this morning.
Well, we never get up this early from conference.
I would just note that in the last
Did you bring
two sentences,
Yep.
from an optical standpoint,
And you could.
your
No
$42,000 almost doubled after tonight.
Yes, that's all, these numbers all have to be updated, so
Yeah,
that will
but
look
I mean,
better.
that looks, 100,000 looks a lot better than
That will look
42,000.
better. That will look better.
It's still dropping the bucket.
Okay.
Paul, I don't want you to think that I don't appreciate the job you've done, I do.
Walter, you have told me a number of times that
Good,
whether we completely agree or not, we don't have any personal problems.
good.
You don't have to agree. That's the beauty of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. All right. I'm gonna move on to the next thing unless somebody wants to stop me. So, I'm gonna make a motion to reopen consideration of the December 19th, 2023 minutes.
Is this one we had a date wrong?
No, this is where we have a number wrong. So I just made a motion, I need a second, and then I'll explain to you what we're gonna do.
I'll second it.
Okay, so if you read the minutes from the December 19th, 2023 meeting, you will see that we covered the,
Can I just ask you, Paul? So your December 19th meeting is your actual minutes that you wanted to vote on? You wanted to reopen November?
oh yeah, wrong. So December 19th is the last meeting we actually had. That's just to
Isn't it
approve
their
those. It's the
packet?
November meeting that I need to reopen. So
Here, I can pull them up on the screen. I
Do you-
don't believe they're in your packet.
why don't we do the one I'm doing first? So I'll restate my amendment. I'm making a motion to reopen consideration of the November 14th, 2023 committee meetings. And I got a second from Walter, and I don't need to vote on that. So this is another one of those, Paul going back to check that we dotted all our i's and crossed all our t's. So at the November 14th meeting, we handled the, hold on a second, I didn't find what I'm looking for. We handled the outside agencies, which is section 4652. Okay? If you look through your budget,
Yes, I should open it up here.
if you look through your budget and you look at section 4652, you will see that we cut, we didn't, I'm confused. The number, I wish I had another. Do you
I
have,
don't like the way this.
do you have 4652? Can you open up the budget, or do I have to do it on my computer?
I can open up the budget. Let me just pull up the minutes really
That
quick.
would be on November 11th, that actual day that we did that.
That's your section on the screen. Let me open up the budget.
So
We only have
what's,
two motions.
so what's going on here is, when I looked in the spreadsheet, I saw a number. When I looked in the minutes, I saw a different number. I went back and watched the video of the meeting, and I said the number in the spreadsheet. So the number that was written in the minutes doesn't match the number that came out of my mouth. So we approved the number we meant to approve, but our minutes don't say that. So I want to go back and amend the minutes so they match. And now what I'm trying to do is stall a minute while Christina brings it up so you can see that. It's off by about $10,000. This was the first
Yeah,
meeting
it
where we handled, this was all the outside agencies, the NLRA.
Because this still should be 30-something thousand.
It's $38,348, but
And what does the minutes say?
the minutes say $28,348 in the error. It's, you
So
guys,
the error is not in the favor we would like, but what we meant to do was approve $38,348,
Yeah.
and what the minutes say is $28,838. So, going back to the recording, I said $38,348. You all voted for $38,348. I just want to amend the minutes so they match with what we said in that meeting.
Instead of 28 to 38, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
because it's an I and a T and we gotta cross them and dot them.
I missed it.
I missed it too. So you're right, I count on you for those things, Buzz, but I'm not,
I'm sure it's just a
but I'm
typo.
not blaming you.
Yeah.
But part of the thing is it was the first meeting and I wasn't as focused on the details at the point, so I didn't catch it until I went back, like after the third meeting, to make sure all the details were right, and that's when I caught it.
Yeah. I would make a motion to amend the
Minutes,
11/14/23 minutes to, under line 4652, outside agencies. The motion was actually to approve the amount of $38,348.
correct. So someone want a second, Les's?
I'll second it.
So a motion from Les, seconded by Charlie, to correct the minutes of the November 14th meeting to show that section 4652 for outside agencies is actually $38,348. So I don't think we need to discuss, let's just vote, all in favor? We have 6 unanimous, 6-0. Thank you, Christina,
sorry for the.
I'm not a lawyer, but I need to get that right. Thanks, Buzz. All right. So now let's do the other minutes. Well, actually, our last meeting was before Christmas. It was December 19th. So the minutes of that meeting were distributed as part of the documentation for tonight's meeting. Did you catch any grammatical corrections?
Now I'm questioning
No.
myself.
You know what? It's so important. You just don't think it's wrong. Go ahead.
On the first page, paragraph that addresses 4140. Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Third line from the bottom, the line begins, "The state gives permission."
Yep,
You should delete the word "to."
got it.
And then at the bottom of the page, the boldface 4550 library should be double spaced, so it should move it up closer to the paragraph just for aesthetic consistency.
Okay. I printed right on these, just so you know.
And then carrying over that, the first 2 lines of that section 4550 on the next page, at the end of the second line, which says library computer support, you should add the word and, A-N-D.
Oh, so I'm sorry. It says, Mr. Kenny asked Mrs. Hayward about the increase of line number 342, library computer support.
And if it was
And
underspent.
if it was underspent, got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
In 4130, about 2/3 of the way down, the line begins with the word expenses with a capital E. and it talks about covers employee recognition gifts or the holiday party. I couldn't remember, and I confess I didn't go back and look, but I think it might be and or the holiday party.
Yeah,
I think there was flexibility. in
yeah.
that. In legal, in the second line, Ms. Goodwin stated bills will be paid from that budget, and again, I didn't go back and look, but it should be, should specify, I guess it's item 4153, but it was unclear to me grammatically
I
when you
think
say
it-
that budget, what budget were you talking about?
I think we were talking about, we still had bills to be paid out of 2023 when you reviewed this budget. So,
I think you just have to be precise as to what that budget is. That's all the comment is.
okay,
And then on the next page.
So instead of like that budget, just write legal, right? Will be
Yeah,
paid
or-
from legal
Yeah.
and is,
the 2023 legal budget.
yeah.
And then, the last one is just the cosmetics again on the, between 4711 and 4721, there should be just a double space.
No, I got a page break on my version, so. I
Yeah.
can't see
Yeah,
that.
that's what's here too,
Okay,
and that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else have any corrections or comments?
I do, actually, on the 4140, you had already made that suggestion, actually, that was one of mine that I was looking at too. But the second thing is that there's a lot of information on that one, because I went back and watched the tape as well. And there was a lot of information on that, and I understand the need for shortening some of these things, but if you're reading it, to me, when I'm looking at motion to move the bottom line, from, 208,599, right? Mr. Reagan had, suggested that, right? And then it said the town clerk assistant to an amount of 13,589.
well,
Shouldn't it say, or 586, whatever it is, 40, shouldn't it have said at least what was coming down? Because you came to the bottom amount of 204,599.57 without stating what was taking off or what was. Shouldn't there be something there that says, yes, that amount was amended, but it was amended from what?
So you wanna
So you
say-
took off 400, yeah.
So motion to amend line 120, town clerk shared assistant, from an amount of
Yes.
to an amount of.
Yes,
You'd like to
'cause
see
it-
that change.
I'd like to see that,
Can you
because
put
it
that in,
doesn't state
Christina?
it, right.
yes, and your votes aren't in there, so I will look up your votes and I will put those in there.
Yes,
yeah, the-
yes,
Your
the
votes
votes,
aren't in there, so
Exactly.
I'll look those up as well.
exactly, thank you, yeah.
Well, but later on it says motion passed 7-0.
Oh, yep, stated, she went on to explain, I see that.
Yep,
Okay, all right,
yep.
okay,
Got it.
Yeah,
But you don't have a vote for moving the bottom line, do you
At
usually?
the end, so motion to move the bottom line in the amended amount of passed 7-0. That's the last sentence in that section.
The first sentence, so when you open a budget, do you need a vote?
No,
Or
No.
just
no,
okay,
I need a second.
Well, so we're good. I'll just add the from amount.
yeah, from that, just so it explains to anyone that would read that where it came from.
And just to let you guys know, the middle part, like the explanations and whatever, might change, but I've instructed Shannon that I basically want the sections to follow a template. So it's always motion to move the bottom line, the number, the name of the thing, how much money it is, and then at the end it is motion to move the bottom line, and again, give me the number and the name of the section and the new amount and what the vote is. So it should be fairly consistent with the start and the end, because that's kind of a repetitive rhythm thing. If I do it the same way every time, then we get it right the same way every time, and I want the minutes to reflect that.
And if you subtract those numbers, you know how much it changed by.
Correct.
But if Sue wants both numbers in there, I
I
don't
can
have any
put that
problem
in,
with that.
that's fine.
Well, I just think it's better reading.
I think Shannon does a pretty good job. I wish I was capable of doing such a job.
All right,
Thank you, Shannon.
all right. Sue, did that, you have anything
Yeah,
else? Or you covered
I
it?
don't have anything, that was
Okay.
it. Yeah, I had the other thing.
So you have all those changes, right?
I do.
All right, so now I will call a vote to approve the minutes of the December 19th, 2023 meeting as amended. All in favor? 6, so those pass, okay. Correspondence. I think that's next on our agenda. I didn't make any notes, so I'm gonna go around. Does anyone have any correspondence they wanna share with the committee? So, I shared some, Janet and I corresponded back and forth, and I'm sorry she had to leave early because she's expressed some dissatisfaction to me. And so I said to her, the last thing I said to her was, I said, Janet, you have concerns. I don't think you and I trading a few emails is going to solve all this. So if you have a concern with the behavior of the committee and you'd like us to do things differently, I urge you to bring that up at this meeting. And I said, if you have a problem with my behavior as chair that you would like to see changed, you have the option to either bring it up at this meeting, or if you would like, I'd be happy to buy you a cup of coffee and we could go have a private discussion. But I don't want to, she's not here, so, but she sent me a note where she said that she would like more information specifically on revenues and the warrant. And how could we consider budget issues without knowing what the warrant and the revenues are? And I wrote back to her and I said, well, I mean, you've been on the committee 10 years, I've only been on the committee for 3 years, but for the time I've been on the committee, we get the warrant and the revenues at the meeting before the public meeting, which is the 30th. I said, to me, my goal is to minimize town spending. I want a budget that gives the town what it needs to get it done and not a penny more. So whether the revenues are up or down doesn't matter to me. I'm always looking to cut things. But she mentioned that the select board isn't giving us the information we need. So I said to her, if your concern is with the select board behavior, I can't really help you with that. I would encourage you, I'm sure you're going to thank me for this, I would encourage you to reach out to Les, who is our select board representative, and you can give her a call, you could send her an email. But if you send her an email, please do not copy the other members of the committee. And she wrote back to me and was like, how can I write an email about committee business without copying all the members of the committee? So I need to close that with her, but I'm focused on the fact that in the training that I took, it talked about you do not want to have committee group discussions outside a public meeting. And when you send emails to the whole committee and then you click on reply to all and have a discussion outside that, eventually it turns into a discussion outside the meeting. So I'm focused on when I send notes, I might send a note out like an announcement, but if I'm sending a note out like I want to talk to you about something, I send it to the one person I want to talk to. She and I don't agree on that. I really was expecting actually for her and I to have an interesting conversation about this during the meeting tonight, and she's not here. So, but I want to let you know that that correspondence is going on because I kind of think that you need to know that. I also wanted to, I guess I meant to reach out to you. I have to, so we got this whole, what do we call it, all committee meeting coming up. So just real quick, my history with that is there was an all committee, I only know one other, there was an all committee meeting, 2 years ago. In my understanding, the prime mover behind that has been Bill Dowling. Go ahead.
Did you get a notice of that?
I did.
I didn't, or at least I didn't catch it.
Okay. So, in 22?
Yeah.
I didn't. So I'll tell you what happened. So Bill Dowling was pushing the select board, as this is my understanding. So I have third-hand information at best. Bill Dowey is pushing the select board to have an all-committee meeting. Bill Dowey and I are friends. Bill Dowey told me outside, oh, it's getting scheduled, here's the date, put it on your calendar, you should be coming, yada, yada, yada. And then the meeting came, and never got an invitation. The meeting came, he found out after the fact that our town administrator, who at the time was Nick Coates, decided that the budget committee didn't need to be part of that meeting, so we were never invited. But I knew it was happening because I even had it on my calendar, because Bill had invited me personally, as he assumed that the budget committee would be part of that meeting, but we weren't. So he talked to me again in the fall. He said, I'm pushing the select board again to have an all-committee meeting. So I kind of knew this was coming down the pike. As your chair, as a budget committee member, nobody talks to me. I only know what I know because I'm friends with somebody else who is more involved than I am. So I really don't know what's going to happen at this thing on Thursday, but I'm planning to go because I'm curious to see what's happening. And I just have to, I guess what I want to do is warn you that when you send out an email, it's so much less efficient than a phone call, or even much less efficient than a face-to-face. And I have to confess that when I first read your note, and you said something about dictatorship, I think I read it wrong, because I thought you were criticizing me, saying I was being now since then I've gone back and reread it, and I'm like, if you do, let me know, but I don't think that's what you were trying to say. But I had to read it 3 or 4 times. The first time I read it, I think I had steam coming out of my ears, because I thought you were calling me a dictator. And I'm like, there's a lot of things you can criticize me about, but that is not one of them, I don't think. So I just warn you, it's so, I find, I did it something else, nothing to do with the budget committee. I wrote an email about something, and then like 3 hours after I wrote it, I'm like, gee, I don't think the tone in that was right. I wish I could go back in time and change that. It had nothing to do with town government. It had to do with a whole different non-town group. But so that's what I wanted to say about correspondence.
I think it's hard to like, we don't as a committee get to talk as a committee. We really don't. So
Well, I think this is the time that you're supposed to talk as
we've
a
never
committee.
actually been doing this.
But you could have.
Yeah.
So I wanted to encourage.
Well, there isn't, you could have, but yet you maybe not could have, because some of those things that I know, on her defense, or, Janet's defense and my own, think about this, is that you don't know what's proper to bring up. Should you do it outside committee? Should you make sure you're doing it not on camera here? Because this is something like, if you're talking, now we were only told you don't do it on camera if you're talking about someone, but there are certain things that you don't, which you don't do. But there are certain things, if you're talking, or you have beefs or things upsetting you as a committee, you need to talk about, are we supposed to be doing this on camera? I mean, truthfully, I don't know. So I think it's because there's no opportunity, or at least you don't feel like there's an opportunity to say that, or say anything.
So you might be able to, so I'll go back to something that's kind of trite. You've probably all heard it in your jobs, but I try to do it. Praise in public, criticize in private.
Yeah.
So if I have something that I want to talk to any of you about as a criticism, I usually try to grab you before the meeting or after the meeting, and if I can't do that, I might even call you up and ask you if you got time to talk on the phone or something. It doesn't happen very often, but you might talk to Janet more than I do. You might be able to help me. So I left my house this morning around 11:30, and I haven't checked email since then. When Janet showed up at the meeting today, she leaned over, she said, "Did you see the email I sent to you?" And I said, "No." She said, "I sent you an email saying I would like the committee to go into executive session today." And I said, "Didn't see it, don't know anything about it." So again, I thought it was going to come up at this point and potentially we were going to do that. I don't know what she wanted to talk about. This might be what you're talking about. She wanted to say something that she didn't want the cameras on to talk about.
That's exactly what it was.
We might have
really,
to,
she just doesn't.
it might have to come, but now the problem is, I think she just confirmed, I'm not positive, I think she did confirm that she's leaving next weekend on vacation. She's planning to participate in next week's meeting remotely. So I don't know how someone remote is gonna, I don't know what we can do. We'll
And
find out.
And I think the New Hampshire Municipal Association has a great document about the right to know law. And one of the key points is there's going to be uncomfortable discussions that happen. Those are gonna happen. Just because a discussion is uncomfortable doesn't mean it shouldn't happen in the public. But generally speaking, when it does come to someone's reputation,
Right.
in particular, that is something and a reason for executive session.
So I will follow up. I think just before Janet left, you might have noticed she and I were whispering. I told her I would like to, and she indicated she gave me a yes. We're gonna try to get together outside of a meeting and talk so that I can understand better what her concerns are and she can share her concerns with me. And my feeling for Janet is the same for all of you. I cannot guarantee I'm gonna agree with whatever you're telling me, but I will listen honestly, I will try to keep an open mind, and I will try to make sure that your concerns are addressed and brought up. Can't agree that I'm gonna vote for something that you're suggesting, because I might disagree with it, but I won't bury it. It will come up and we will get it addressed, and the majority of the committee disagrees with me, we'll do what the majority of the committee wants to do. Okay.
I think you've always been fair with me, thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Christina, yes.
So if you do need to do an executive session, you have specific RSAs that you have to post on your agenda? They have to be posted on your agenda?
Oh, see, that's it, she just brought me the form and said, here's the one, the RSA I wanna
Right.
use for a
So
reason.
you do have to post that you're going to hold an executive session and for what reasons you are.
So I'm expecting between now and the end of the week, I will spend some time talking with Janet, I will bring this up.
Say she was going
I'm pretty
to
sure I read the
Monday,
opposite.
I don't
I
know,
said
I think she
that.
said she's leaving Sunday, I don't know when she's coming
because We
back.
have to post it on all
I thought it
select
was
board
like
meetings.
She's
That's
a month
for
when she
months.
left. I'll see you in
I thought I
I
read
think
the
she
exact
is going to
opposite.
go to her.
Or in March, maybe.
Yeah, they go to Florida.
Yeah, I'll send you the paragraph that I
If
read.
it's a non-meeting, you can do it.
I'll send you the section.
Okay.
Then we'll come
You
to
can
comments.
do it with a non-meeting with the attorney, usually. We do
Yeah.
that with the land use boards.
Okay, so, again, I'm gonna stop myself because I feel like I'm rambling at this point. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, otherwise I'm gonna move on to the next item in the agenda.
Are we still in correspondence?
We're still on correspondence. Did you have any correspondence? you'd
No,
like to-
I had a member comment, not a correspondence. I'll
Okay,
let you
so
continue.
now let's go on to member comments. So I kind of combined those because I talked to my correspondence and made a bunch of comments. Any member comments?
No, except for when you said about bringing up and the dictatorship and all that stuff. Part of my reasoning on another thing that I know not only bothers me, but a couple other people is that we didn't hear anything correspondence from you. We haven't gotten most of it, and I don't mean to pick at you, is coming from you. Those are things that I remember that we used to get the correspondence from our leader of the budget group, or the budget committee, not all from you. So it just seems like you're kind of taking over. Even Nick never did any of that. So I'm just saying that's another thing that's bothering.
The correspondence that you'd be getting.
Anytime we get about anything, is coming from you. Nothing comes from him. I don't think we've got
It
the money
doesn't
here
come
from
from
me, Paul.
I think the only email I sent was recently where I said the meeting was postponed.
That's it. That's the only
The meeting
that was
before
sent on
that, you were in the office and I sent that correspondence for you.
Yes, I actually came down to town hall and I stood with Christine in her office talking about should we cancel this meeting or not. So, for example, I got a note from Shannon, I don't count this under correspondence because it's just kind of normal administration of the committee, but I got a note from Shannon a couple of days ago saying, hey, I found 2 date errors in the agenda and I've updated it, and she sent it to Kate to get posted, and she sent it to Christine and I, and she said, should I send this to the whole committee? I didn't forward it on to you. I wrote back to Shannon and said, yes, please distribute this to the committee. So behind the scenes, I feel like I'm involved, but most of the time, you're right. I asked Shannon or Christina to send something out.
Yeah.
If that's something you would rather see coming from me, I can consider trying to do that.
Well, I just think it helps. It helps, but because it also takes away anything that says, well, wait a minute, why is this so different
So-
this year than
so-
it's not?
I would like to clarify too, I was your secretary for the first however many months of your committee meetings.
Yes.
So that material came from me as your secretary. So that may be
Oh,
where
well,
some
even
confusion.
last year, the year before, yes.
No,
but
even
this
the
year.
beginning of this budget season,
No.
I was your secretary.
She wrote the minutes for the first 2 meetings this year.
And I would do the edits, and Shannon was only doing the minutes, I was preparing the meeting materials, so all of that material was coming from me until Shannon was able to transition back into her role.
Right,
Anything recently that you would get from me would be if Paul asked me to send out like the cancellation, but the all committees has nothing to do with your chair, that's a whole different thing, and that would come from me.
right,
So.
yeah, we saw that, yeah.
But other than that, you shouldn't get, unless Paul's asked me to send it to you, you shouldn't get
I don't
things like that.
I don't know that you're gonna get a lot from me, but I think your request is not unreasonable. I will
Right.
look for opportunities to do less delegating. If it makes sense to come from me, instead of asking someone else to send it to you, I'll do it myself. I can do that.
Yeah.
No
That's a good
problem.
thing, okay.
Comments? Comments?
There isn't any one of us here that's perfect.
Oh, I know
None
I'm
of
not.
us. And there isn't anyone here looking to gain anything for ourselves. So all I can say is, some of us are a little less perfect than others. And if what we're doing is for the best of the town, that's what we're here for.
It is, but
And
we
I
also
think
should
we're
be
all
here for
doing
each
as
other.
well as we
Yeah.
can.
I think we are. Thank you, Walter.
Yeah. We
Comments?
should also be here for each other, though. I mean, if you're gonna be a team and be a group, you should be corresponding with each other. Yeah.
Comments, Charlie?
Yeah, I wanted to state that my term is up and I will not be running again for my.
I was coming back to
See.
that,
Something we
but
said?
No,
Yeah.
I'm a trustee of the trust fund and I'm deciding kind of how else to configure my life.
okay.
There's two other people, there's
Yes.
gotta be two other people that are.
Yes, I'm gonna come back to that in a
Okay.
second.
Okay.
Any comments?
No.
Struggling over your tongue there.
I guess I would just say that as much as possible, we should have these conversations in public as a group, as long as we're not ruining anyone's reputation. And we can't not have those conversations to protect ourselves. That's not how the law is meant to be. So if we're worried that we're gonna come off looking bad, that's too bad.
Right, if
That's
we're
how
gonna, if we're gonna criticize somebody else, particularly say a town employee, we wouldn't wanna do that, but if we're criticizing each other is,
Well, that's how you learn, I mean, you wanna do that.
we won't get, you don't get better if you don't share your concerns and
And
your.
that, and that's okay, because, I mean, to be real, there's been almost knockdown dragouts in some budget meetings over the years. And, you know, as long as I've always feel like I walk out of a meeting respecting everybody and still feeling okay with everybody, and to me, that's always the important thing, that you're not taking it home and chewing on it and worrying about it. But the reply to all, I picked up on that right away, and the only reason I didn't reply is because I would have been replying to all, is that we really should never reply to all. If Paul sends us something, or this reply to all can really create more drama behind the scenes. So it's better to just wait and address it in a meeting, or bring it to the chair to.
Can we shift to using a BCC instead of a CC? Is there a reason why we can't do that? When committee,
As long as you're not having a discussion back, but I don't think.
no, so when Shannon, for example, when Shannon sends out an email, everyone is BCC'd instead of CC'd, so that no one can just hit reply all.
Yep.
You can't do it.
Right.
There's no way to do it.
Okay. So, I'm
just saying.
I think that's a good
It
suggestion.
alleviates this.
We're
right
almost through with this year, but it's an interesting and probably a good suggestion.
We can
actually
test
be-
it for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Before I wrap up comments, I wanted to do two things. One is that, again, I want to pick on her, and she's not here, so I definitely don't want to pick on her, but Janet sent a note out a week ago Friday asking for some additional information. I think she copied everyone, but I'm not 100% sure. And Christina responded that I can't give you the information on Monday because it's MLK Day and the offices are closed. And then we were gonna have the meeting on the 16th, but it got canceled due to snow. I had forgotten, I don't think I've said it, but we have had a policy for the last 3 years that we didn't want town employees and department heads to be overwhelmed with requests. And that if a committee member wants more information, they're supposed to direct that request to the chair, then the chair collects those and asks for all the information and gets back to the committee. So I think that I want to point out that I think that's still our policy. I didn't think about it in the past, but moving forward, let's make an effort to let me know what you need, and it's a little more work for me, but probably will make things a little bit easier. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on was that Charlie had said. So we have Janet and Charlie are finishing their 3-year terms. So if they want to continue, they would need to run for re-election. And Buzz, as a appointed member, only serves to the next election. So he's serving the first year of a 3-year term. So at the upcoming election, there'll be 2 3-year terms and 1 2-year term on this committee. The window to file for candidacy opens tomorrow. I think it closes in early February, the 2nd maybe?
It closes next Friday at 5.
Okay,
So it's open about a week and a half.
Okay.
Is it only the 2nd? Really? Wow.
Yeah.
So it's fairly low. So I wanted to make an effort to ask. So I asked Charlie, and he told me he was not going to run for re-election. I talked to Buzz. Buzz told me that he didn't mind me, it's not private, that he is planning to run for re-election.
Good.
I asked Janet in an email, and she didn't give me an answer, and I didn't talk to her about that tonight. So I don't know what Janet's plans are. But where I was coming from is I strongly dislike having a ballot with less candidates than there are positions.
Yep.
I don't want, if all 3 of our current members were gonna run for re-election, I didn't wanna recruit candidates to give them a harder election. I thought that would be unkind. But we know we have at least 1 open position. So I wanna encourage you, if you know anyone, you got any friends, even if they're not a friend of yours, if you think they'd be a good person on the budget committee, don't hesitate to let them know that there's an opening. If they have questions you can't answer, send them to me, send them to, I think Les would be the best. She's got more experience. Walter's got a lot of experience. We don't control it, and it's not officially part of our responsibilities, but I'd like to try to recruit at least 1 more candidate, assuming Janet runs, and we know that Buzz is gonna run, at least 1 candidate, so that we have not more open positions than candidates.
Hopefully last year, they wrote a whole bunch of names at the bottom where people were running during the election day, so you may have a list as well, even if you can't find anybody now.
Well,
Let's not go back. Go back.
Oh, no, we can go back to that.
Yeah, they
But-
were
Not bad,
at
yeah.
the bottom.
But I mean, so I'm not gonna mention any names because it's not about a specific person. But if you have less candidates than you have positions, somebody is gonna win the write-in candidate, the write-in vote. And if they accept the position, they get on. And if they're good, that's great. But if they're not good, we have to live with that. I'd much rather know who it is ahead of time, and then, I think it gives us a little more confidence that we can continue to function fairly well. Did you?
I thought of one more thing, and I don't know, I know we've talked about this has happened at the select board level, and I don't know if this committee feels the same way. But sometimes you'll have a personal agenda. I mean, we all do, you can't help it. There's certain things that you feel passionate about. But by having that and requesting certain information, you may be doing that for your personal agenda and not what the committee as a whole wants. So I think what we started doing, and it might have been when I was on budget before, is saying, is this something the committee wants to look at? If I want to request, if I say I want to see more statistics on the highway department. Well, if the committee doesn't feel that way,
Right,
I'm not
obviously,
gonna waste the
That's a good point.
department head's time.
obviously,
Christina's
obviously,
time.
if I said I wanted to see a copy of Les's job performance review, the other committee would slap me down. I mean, you don't have a job.
But what I
I'd
think she's
say
saying,
no to you anyway, but.
if we go to the extent of requesting information,
Yeah.
it probably should be on the next agenda too.
To see if the board wants to go with that. It's just, I
I-
don't think it's fair to
That's
take
a
up
good-
everybody.
I think that's a fair process.
That's a good point. So I will say, if someone just says to me, hey, I want a new copy of the budget report, I would feel comfortable saying, okay, we'll run the report and send it to them.
That's
If they
different.
say I want a custom analysis done for me of this particular department, yeah, I think, I hadn't thought of it that way. I think you're right. We'll bring it back to the committee and say, is this something the committee supports?
I am getting some of the requests and I've reviewed them, but I've also done one and it hasn't been shared back to your budget committee, so.
Okay. So I actually have another comment, but I'm gonna stop for a second. Staff comments. Did you have anything you wanted to do?
I just lost all my train of thought.
Well, I'll do my last thing because it kind of ties in.
The white page just happened, sorry.
So on the agenda, it's adjournment and next meeting. Before we adjourn, I want to talk to you about next meeting. I want to talk to you about the schedule. So when I put the schedule together, I basically used past year's schedules as a template. So the public budget meeting in my history, which is only 3 years, is always on the first Tuesday in February. So it is currently scheduled on the first Tuesday in February, so not the 30th, but the 6th. Because town meeting, so typically it has to be done by the end of that week. Because of the way the election is on the second Tuesday and town meeting is the following Saturday, the town meeting is actually fairly late in the calendar this year. State law allows us to have the public meeting on the 13th. So if we wanted to, we could push it back a week. It's not something that we can let go to the last second because it has to be publicized. The town is gonna buy newspaper adverts. So I wanna make you guys aware of that because I wanna get a feel for what people wanna do. In some respects, I'm like, an extra week is wonderful, let's push it back. And then in some respects, I'm like, we're on track to have the meeting next week and finish up and have the meeting on the 6th and then we're done.
But what benefit do we have of pushing it?
Are you here on the 13th?
Is that the following week?
The following
Yeah,
week?
yeah, I made it on the 13th.
So you would much prefer the 13th because you're not gonna be
Because
here on the
I'm not
6th,
gonna
then
be
you're
here
gonna be
the
here on the 13th.
Yeah.
I'm looking for, as chair, I kind of get to make the decision, so I'm not really gonna call for a vote, but I'm calling for input. If the majority of the board clearly wants to keep it on the 6th or clearly wants to delay it a week to the 13th, I'm gonna probably do that.
I think we should keep going.
Okay,
I think we
Any
should
thought?
be here and get it done.
okay.
I'm fine with either.
So Sue had reminded me that she had already informed me that she is out of town for some business trip on the week of the 6th and wouldn't be able to be with us, so she would prefer the 13th, because she will be back in town on that. Buzz, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I would prefer to keep going, but I'm ambivalent. I mean, I don't want to
I
exclude
didn't realize.
valuable members.
Yeah, I don't like to not be here, but I can't help it this one.
Is there any other night when we could do it?
Not that week for me. It's a business trip. I'm out of state, actually. Yeah,
That whole week,
yeah,
the
their whole week.
5th through the,
Actually, yeah.
Ninth.
I'm driving out. We're driving out on the Saturday.
okay.
So yeah.
Les, any thoughts?
I won't be here on the 13th, I don't know what I'm saying, and that's okay.
Will you be able to do it remotely?
No. Won't work.
I'm fine with.
It's 6:01, half a dozen of another.
I mean, it is,
Janet's
yeah.
out of town no matter what, so I don't think that she
I
has a
don't know
preference.
what's gonna happen to me. I'm gonna be operated on the 12th. And I don't know whether I'm coming home that night
Yeah.
or whether I'm gonna be in the
Let's do
hospital.
it the 6th.
Yeah, you might want to. You might want to do this.
Because your quarter is 4, so you're getting closer.
You never know. Yeah. You might want to just,
But what it does mean as I said to you, we need another meeting before the public meeting. So we need to do our warrant review and any reconsideration we want to do in revenues. And I said, if an unexpected snowstorm kills us on the 30th, we would have to look at like a Wednesday or a Thursday, or, you know, we need to squeeze another meeting in before the public meeting. I think,
Can you do it before?
when are we gonna buy the adverts? When are we gonna make the announcements? When are we gonna post on the website? Do you know?
I'm gonna try
This
to
week
do
or
it
next
as soon as
week?
possible, but
This
the
week.
deadline is February 9th for, if you,
No.
actually, it's February 9th or February 16th, so move it back 3 days. Because, we were just talking about the 13th, so it would be February 6th for our February 13th meeting.
That's a week ahead.
Yeah, it's about a week, it's 7 days ahead, so roughly, according to theirs, but do your bylaws say anything specific? I forgot to check that.
Bylaws? I didn't look at any bylaws.
Your,
I know what you're saying, I don't know.
I don't, do your bylaws say anything specific about
I'd have to
posting a
call them
public
up and
hearing?
look at them, that would be
I
first.
will do that right now.
I don't think it specifies a difference between public hearing and
Okay,
announcement of it from the chair position. Really don't think it does.
Let's, what I'm anticipating to do now is to keep the schedule the way it is. We'll have a meeting next Tuesday to wrap things up, we'll have a public meeting on the 6th. If for some reason the meeting on the 30th can't happen, we'll reconsider whether we're gonna try to squeeze a meeting in or just push those both back a week. We'll hold that in reserve. So Christina, we're asking you not to publicize the public meeting until we have the meeting on the 30th, which would still give you a week to do that. So that works for you, right?
Yep.
Okay. So that's it.
When are we gonna, when do we get a draft warrant? Are we gonna
Next-
get at the meeting or are we gonna
next-
get a few days before?
I'm gonna try to get it to you a few days before.
Okay, good.
It's definitely going to be a draft. The board has to meet on February 1st, to do their vote. But I don't believe it will have any added warrant articles. It just would be their vote won't be included in your draft yet. Because they can't vote before the 1st. So I'm doing my due diligence to try and get it out to you this week, so.
Okay. Anything come back in for staff comments to your head?
So I know that some of the comments that have come in through the email have been about the schedule and about when things are reviewed. And I just wanted to reiterate, I didn't create the schedule from scratch. If there's something the budget committee wants to change.
The schedule was primarily done by me.
Yes, and it was based off of last year's schedule.
I used last year's
And the year
template.
before, so we didn't create them from scratch, but if you'd like to see a different timeline for things, then we should talk about that early enough so we know what to do going into the next season.
I know,
So-
at one point, I like the cadence of 2 meetings a month. That kinda is currently there. It's part of the rationale why that is the way it is. At one point, for example, we would have, I think, 3 meetings in December, and one literally right before Christmas. I'm like, no, let's go to 2 meetings per month.
So
And that kind of,
can you look at a different day then? Because the problem with this room is it's only available, because the public hearing, they've been having public hearings, zoning board, the first meeting of every month. The second meeting of every Tuesday is historic district, but that can be bumped. It's zoning board that I have a harder time being able to bump out of this room. And partly is because we have the TV with the Zoom and so it makes it very hard.
I hear you. I think this year was also tough because with the
Not
public
having
safety
other
building
things.
potentially has meeting space, it's not built yet. The other conference room here in the building are now police functional areas. So unless you wanna go down to the water department, there's limited places. So this year's been a more difficult scheduling thing. Because we stream and record, we basically need this room.
we have debated Mondays in the past too.
So
You were on Mondays before,
Yeah.
and we changed it to Tuesdays, I think there was a budget committee member at the time who Tuesdays worked better for him. And then, we talked about it at the beginning of this year about whether you could change it or not, so.
Yeah,
So,
that is what happened.
Yeah.
That is exactly what happened.
so one of the things that happened earlier this year is that Buzz and I got appointed to the CIP committee. And the way that they did it was they actually scheduled a meeting in the spring, kind of as an organizational meeting. Let's elect a chair and a vice chair, and let's talk about the schedule. And then they started up their normal rhythm in August. So I think I've already said to you that I really liked that. So instead of waiting for late summer to call us together and have kind of an organizational meeting, I'm the carryover until we elect a new one. So Charlie will have moved on, we'll have a different group of people. I'm planning to get us together in April or May. We'll elect a new chair, we'll elect a new vice chair, and we'll talk about the schedule. And then we'll be ready to hit the ground running at the end of the summer, is kind of my expectation.
It's a good introduction for the new members too, to kind of see everybody.
Sure.
Tell them about the basic laws of budgeting, yeah.
Yeah.
There is, since you bring all that up about chair and vice chair and stuff like that, there is a little point of contention with me that, and I probably should have known it, that you're only vice chair in name only. So isn't there something, like if you didn't want to do something, wouldn't the vice chair be the perfect person to ask to do
Correct.
certain things?
Yeah.
And to be more involved?
No, literally, it's only when he's not here.
So
I know, but
That's the way the bylaws are written.
So
It's just that one person, I step in if he's just,
So the year and a half that I was vice
That's
chair
crazy.
to Charlie after Joe resigned, and then the
I
following
think you
year,
did 2 minutes.
I don't even think I did that.
I
thought you
want
came
to say,
all
I gave you a minute and a half.
And then
Yeah.
last year, I had to miss a meeting, and Rob was the vice chair. He ran that meeting. I wasn't here. I guess somebody did a fine job.
right.
That's the only time the vice chair of the select board steps in is if.
And that is how our bylaws are written, so the bylaws would have to change if we want to change
Yeah.
the role of the vice chair.
So
Well, the only thing is, I mean, it just makes sense, is because you're a vice chair who's like a vice president, you gotta do something. I mean, you gotta be, what am I doing? I feel like I'm out of the loop here. You know what I mean? Like,
right,
it's like totally
you
not
have
going.
you have a title of vice chair, but you're really not doing anything other than any other general member.
You're right.
So the thing that I would suggest is, why don't you? I mean, it's kind of late. We
Well,
should have
yeah,
done this
this year
earlier,
wouldn't be.
but we could have. I would have suggested, we could have gotten together in October or November, just the two of us, and talked about, hey, it's not official, it's not formal, but we could make an arrangement to give you. Because I thought the same thing by being vice chair. I don't know what your intentions are, but you could be thinking of it as a training experience for
Totally,
potentially
well,
becoming
stepping up,
chair
just
eventually.
yeah,
And you didn't get as much out of it as you were hoping.
Nothing.
Or the vice chair runs 1 or 2 of the meetings
Right.
during the year. The bylaws can be changed, I think, to
Oh, interesting.
hold that sentiment.
That's true. Yeah, I don't have to step away. I can come and just agree that she's gonna, we just change the bylaws to let
And
the
just
vice
Yeah.
chair have it.
Yeah.
One of the things the bylaws are very clear about is the roles of the chair,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Interesting. Okay.
And the vice chair, who literally is only when the chair is gone.
The bylaws have 1 through 6 items that are the chair's responsibility, and 1 item, that's the vice chair,
Yeah.
shall preside and assume all duties when the chairman is absent. And I'm like, holy cow.
And you could add or is absent or defers
Yeah.
responsibilities, it could be written
Right,
like that.
You could.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
So.
Okay.
but as written, Paul is doing what you should be doing,
Yeah.
as our bylaws are written.
And you just don't know that going in, because I just
Yeah.
would have thought I would have had a little bit more, or been, maybe a little more involved in something.
All right.
It can be a curse and a blessing.
True. That's true too. Yeah, you could look at that. Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
I think that's it. So unless someone speaks up really quick, I'm gonna make,
Motion to adjourn?
thank you, I don't need to do that. One second.
Oh, I'll second that motion.
9:32.
As vice chair.
9:32.
So at 9:32, we
Or
have.
9:39,
As
7 minutes off
As
the
vice
count.
chair.
Oh, you're right. 9:39, we have a motion to adjourn from Les, seconded by Sue. All in favor, passes unanimously. Everyone keep warm.
Yes.